Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
It is a Tuesday on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Jason in today. G. Bush is back today. How you doing, guys?
What's up?
Fantastic.
You doing good? Fantastic?
A little tired. Stayed up late. Watched the game.
Woke up Jay Crawford in the middle of the night. And his entire family.
Whole situation got woke up.
Things got a little tenuous
Well,
last
I
night on the
mean,
check
now we got to say why.
Yeah.
I mean, Tyvus lost his damn mind last night.
What?
And said,
Oh, I thought he lost it about a year ago.
well, I mean, Tyvus starts up on our group chat last night. As soon as the game ends, as soon as the buzzer goes off.
Yeah.
Well, LeBron's been swept 3 times. Giannis would never be swept 3 times. Giannis has been home for 2 weeks because he couldn't get out of the first round.
3.5 weeks, Giannis.
By the way, and the LeBron got swept by the team that was the number 1 seed. Now, I know we all downplayed them because they hadn't done anything in the playoffs, but in the end, they were the number 1 seed. And Giannis lost in 5 games. Congratulations, like that matters. To the 8th seed,
And
who's
also,
going to the finals.
Also,
but
Bull, the one game they won, Giannis didn't play.
That's true. So he didn't even do anything.
So he was swept.
Giannis
So
that's a
theoretically was
great
swept.
point. I didn't even think about that.
By the way, so these guys were going. I was sleeping. I was
too.
out.
Or
I
I
didn't even
would've
watch
said
the
that in the
game
chat
last
last
night. I'm not
night.
going to lie. But this morning I get up and I thought it was obvious that I was being sarcastic when I said, "Oh, we got to take LeBron and MJ off Mount Rushmore." And I poked fun at both Tyvus and Earl by saying we replaced them with Donovan Mitchell and Giannis.
Right.
And either nobody cared about what I said, which is fine, or I think Tyvus didn't even realize I was being sarcastic.
Right. Like, he was like, yeah.
Because he responded like, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. I think I'm glad you addressed that, Bull. Like, that was a really
We got to get him on there.
Yeah.
Jay left the chat at 11:30 last night. I was like, oh, I guess
He
Jay
was
didn't
out.
stay and watch the game. So I texted him this morning on my way, and I'm like, I'm really sorry about last night. He goes, oh, it's no problem. Normally he shuts his phone off or shuts the ringer off, but he had it on last night.
Yeah, because Jay is not often involved in these group chats.
No,
That's not true.
He chimes in.
No, actually, he's heavily involved in pitch to pitch on every Guardians
With
game.
baseball, yes.
Yes.
And with the Browns. But with the basketball conversations, he's less active in those
He
conversations.
jumps in, from now and then.
When
But-
you two angry old men start screaming back and forth in
Yeah,
football,
yeah.
that's when I mute them.
Well, he and I haven't done that in a while. I feel
It's
like we
not
haven't had
football
one of those
season.
debates
It's
in a
normally
while.
a Browns game. You
But
guys go
yeah,
over.
Jay just left our chat.
Hey, remember we used to have instant messenger?
Yeah.
Instant messenger where they used to have that door closing sound when
Oh,
somebody
yeah.
logged off?
That was Jay. He was out of the room.
Like,
He was out.
You be in college, like typing to a girl, hey, what are you doing to do? As soon as they see you in there, let me get away from this
Gone.
stalker.
On today's show, the great voice of the Guardians, Tom Hamilton. And one of the many things I love about Tom Hamilton is that unlike most home team announcers, he gives you some energy when the other team makes a good play.
Yeah.
And he also is not afraid to say, yeah, that bad call went in our favor.
Yeah.
Oh, and he'll go after guys.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
On the Guardians, he'll go after
Absolutely. Way too often, the home team announcers, if it's a bad ball or strike in favor of your team,
Yeah, it's a
they
good
don't
call.
say anything.
Good call.
If it's against your team, oh, my God, how'd they miss that pitch?
He doesn't. When he calls a game, he's not like a cheerleader. Like, he's like.
No. Well, it's clear he wants the Guardians to win.
Yes, but he doesn't
But
have
not-
open pom-poms waving.
I know, which I like. I like that he calls it that way. And because I was driving home last night from my son's baseball practice, and so I'm listening to the end of the game on the radio, and he called, and I guess Romy Gonzalez made a great play. It was at the in the bottom of the 8th. I never actually saw the play because I was listening to it on the radio. But he went nuts. He was like, this is one of the greatest plays you'll ever see. And I'm like, my God, wow.
Yeah.
Man.
I was at the game last night. I was
Yeah.
writing a column on how they've been let down by their 2 free agent signings.
Yeah.
And you can trace a lot of the offensive struggles back to Zunino and Bell.
Yeah.
3/4 of the way through this column, typing away, 8th inning, 7th, 8th, whatever
Yeah.
it was,
Seventh
Zunino.
inning.
Boom!
And by the way,
Run shot to
they
right.
should still cut his ass.
But I watched the ball leave the park. closed my laptop with one finger, told Zach, this one's going to wait a couple days, and left.
Yeah, not great timing
Not
for,
great
for that
timing on
article.
my part.
I mean, that was his first extra base hit in like a month.
Yeah,
maybe more.
It's been bad.
So we'll get to that. Your old high school teammate, who is now the coach of your high school team,
Yeah.
is joining us as well today.
Yeah, Antonio Hall. He's the coach of Camp McKinley. I think he's been there 4 years. I played ball with him. I grew up with him. It's real funny. Like, when you're a big kid in the city, like you live on one side of town, I used to live on the northeast side of town.
Yeah.
He used to be on the northwest side of town. And there was always this myth about this other kid that was just as tall as you.
Yeah.
Like, I've been this size since 12.
Yeah.
And he's been his size since 12. So
Yeah.
they're like, hey, there's another kid on the other side of town that's bigger than you. He's going to drop 40 on you. We met each other first playing baseball, and then we played basketball against each other, and then eventually went to the same high school. So, really good friend, know all his family, all his people.
Yeah.
He just got the the National High School Hall of Fame. They have kind of started this thing, and it's going to be in Canton, Ohio. So he was able to partner with another couple other people. And so this is the inaugural class. So it's a really big names on there. The Mannings, Marcus Dupree had a 30 for 30. A lot of different people. Mike Doss went into it from McKinley. Bernie Kosar went into it. So it was just a press conference, letting people know what it is. And
that's where you were yesterday.
Yeah, yep.
And you spoke to Bernie and
Yep.
Who else did you speak to?
Mike Doss was there.
Mike
spoke
Doss.
to Bernie as well. So
about Jim Brown. We'll get to that later. We'll get to the NBA Finals later. We're going to get to the Browns and some offensive projections from fantasy guru Mike Clay. But first, we got to get to the best bet there, Mikey.
It is. You won yesterday, Bull, and if you want to ride with Bull again, you should do it with Bet Rivers Online Sportsbook, because right now is the perfect time to join Bet Rivers Sportsbook. When you use deposit code SPORTS, you receive a second chance bet up to $500. You can get in on all the action with weekly specials on your favorite sports like basketball and hockey to help you win big. Check them out at betrivers.com or download the Bet Rivers app today for the latest lines, odds, and boosts.
Last week was my first bad week with baseball. I did not do great last week, but we start off this week well with the win yesterday. What is my baseball record on the season, Mike?
30-19.
30-19. So I'm still over 2/3 or over 60% win percentage. All right, I didn't like any of the games in terms of win-loss today, so I'm going with an over-under. Cardinals and Reds tonight. You got two pitchers going in this game who have been awful, including Adam Wainwright, who's done. This is his last year in the big leagues. He's been awful since coming off the injured list. I'm drawing a blank on who's starting for the Reds tonight. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Ashcraft.
Yeah, he's been terrible too.
Ashcraft?
Ashcraft. Or Ashcraft. He's been pitching like ass. So
I honestly didn't know Adam Wainwright was still pitching. I didn't know.
He was hurt, and he was hurt to start the season. Well, they thought he was going to retire last year. He decided to come. He should have retired.
Yeah.
He's looked awful. Now, he did miss the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, so maybe he just got around to form.
I thought they was going to give him that Udonis Haslam contract for the Cardinals.
They might.
Just you play for the Cardinals forever.
That's it. But he's been terrible. The Cardinals offensively at last couple of weeks have gotten hot, and so have the Reds offensively. So I look at this as a big high-scoring game, maybe an 8-7 final, so over 10 for a ton of runs tonight. So there you go. One other thing on baseball, you mentioned Zunino's home run. The one positive here, besides the fact that the division's so bad that the Guardians stay in there, even with the Zunino home run, I think Bo Naylor needs to be here. Jason, do you agree? And do you think he will be soon? I know he was here for the doubleheader on Sunday.
Yeah.
Or in New York.
Yeah, I think he will. I think he'll be here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the date, but by July, I think he'll be here.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
time.
Zunino's got nothing left. He's a parking cone behind the plate.
That's right.
And that's the real
right.
problem.
You got to move on. You need young blood.
You got to get something from one side or the other.
Right.
Either behind the plate or at the plate.
And you cut him if that's what you do.
Yeah.
You keep Gallagher because he's a backup catcher.
He's here because he's making $6 million. That's why he's still here.
But
if he was on a $2 million deal, he'd have moved on.
It's time to go. I mean, unless he gets, I understand if he gets red hot, they may change their mind. But Naylor's a top prospect. He's kicking ass in the minors. It's time for him to get a shot.
And it's not even like Zunino's had bad luck. If you look at the metrics,
he's awful.
He's not hitting the ball hard.
No, not at all. But not just oh my God, Hunter Gaddis who pitched last night.
Yeah.
He did a great job.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
I'd still like his next start to be in Columbus and all the ones that follow.
Agreed.
In Columbus.
Agreed. But for one night, he did a good job.
For one night, he was fine.
And Logan Allen will pitch today. All right, more on that later. Mike, let's go to you. to talk about another Mike Clay, who's with ESPN. He's a fantasy football guy, but he's a really good fantasy football guy who every year, like a lot of fantasy football guys, projects the statistics of players.
Yes.
He uses it for fantasy. We're going to use it for something else.
Yeah, we're just going to look at it in the terms of, are these realistic or unrealistic? Not do you think it's high or lower, but could you see this happening, or if you think it's way off, whether it's too high or whether it's too low, you're going to give me the sad face. So we'll go happy face, sad face. Mm-hmm. And just a reminder to the people out there, this is not Mike Lucas's projections. These are Mike Clay's. If you don't believe
offense,
me,
but Mike Clay's more likely to make accurate projections than you.
facts. And just to prove it, Steve, take tagboard full real quick. We'll tweet it out. Here's the actual list of all the projections. He did it for the defense, which we'll do later in the week. You can't see it. That's intentional. We made it much bigger so you can see him on these graphics. Steve, you can drop it. But these are from Mike Clay of ESPN, not me. Are y'all ready?
Now, there he referenced the defense. We're only doing offense today. We're going to do defense Thursday?
I believe Thursday, yes.
Okay, good.
Later
I'll be back Thursday.
We also have Keep
Same with
Cut
Jason.
Trade on Thursday. So
What's that?
We're doing Keep Cut Trade Thursday, too.
Oh, good.
So
Oh,
Thursday
Great.
should
More
be
people can hate me.
It'll be the same three of us on Thursday.
Which is why I'm saving defense for that
Okay,
game.
good.
We've
So-
been getting tore up.
We're going to start with the quarterback position.
Yes.
There are 6 stats on this graphic. Steve, I need 117 in the box. And when you take it, tell me if you think this is a realistic projection for this.
Oh, boy.
Right there, 117. I keep saying 117. Deshaun Watson. I need
Come
that
on
in the
now.
box.
Get your numbers
and
correct,
you
will
can take it. Deshaun Watson for the upcoming 2023 season. 65% completion percentage. 3,727 yards. 26 touchdowns, 11 touchdowns, nearly 500 yards on the ground, and 4 rushing touchdowns.
Now, we're
we
not
taking
answering whether we like it or not. We're answering whether we think those stats are within a window of reality.
Okay. So which one? Are we saying total? Are we going individually by passing?
No, I would
yards?
say as a group. I mean, if you think
Yeah,
one,
if this is in totality realistic, give me a happy face.
I would think if one is way off and the other 5 are pretty good, I'd go with the happy
go with
face.
that.
So I'm going to go with the happy face.
Yeah.
G. Bush disagrees. G, too high, too low? What do you think?
Man, listen, these ain't no playoff numbers. These is Baker 2020 numbers. Well, this little 3,700 yards.
Just for reference, the Browns went to the playoffs with Baker.
Oh, well,
Playoff numbers.
I mean, them Baker playoff numbers is different. If them Baker playoff numbers now would not get them to the playoffs, I don't think. The
AFC is better,
much better.
and it's one more game.
And it's one more. So here's the problem I got with it. I ain't got no problem with the 487 on the ground. The 4 rushing touchdowns, okay. I want anywhere 9. I'll take 9 to 11 interceptions. It sounds like I'm just bigger up in this because now I'm 3.
Now
4,
you're agreeing with it.
9 to 11 is them touchdowns. No, them got to be at least 36, 37, and 3,700 is way too low. 3,700 is like what, 220 yards a game?
Yeah, I think the yardage is a lot lower. Is not a lot lower. The yardage is lower than my bottom expectation.
Yes.
The rest of the numbers are, I mean, the rushing stuff is fine. The interceptions are reasonable. I think the completion percentage will be around there. I think the touchdowns are on the lower end of what I think he might do, but I would put it still in there. I think 35 and 36 touchdowns is too much to ask. I'm expecting like 30, 31 touchdowns, maybe 32. I do think he's going to throw for over 4,000 yards, so I think that's low. That would be disappointing if he only threw for 3,700 yards. I could live with the rest of those numbers if he had another 400, 500 yards. Now, we want more than that, but there you go. Remember also, as much as we expect for him, I think he'll get better as the season goes. So maybe early. I don't know. We'll see. I think it's within reason. Overall.
I only have a problem with 3,726 touchdowns. Because if I just close my eyes, I think Baker, his rookie year, had, 3,400?
Yeah.
We just talked about this the other day, but I don't remember now what we said.
He had 34 touchdowns, I think 27 or 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and he didn't even start the first few games.
In the end, compared to how he played last year, this would be very good compared to that. But it's not as good as you'd ultimately like it to be. Jason, how do you feel about it?
I'm kind of in agreement with you. I think 38 to 4,000, somewhere in there, is sort of the baseline, and 30-ish touchdowns probably. But that's close enough for me to agree with it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to go any lower than 65%. There's quarterbacks throwing completing 70%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for the record, Mike Clay projects the Browns in this statistical projection 9.7 wins, right in the cusp of the playoff.
I mean, that's right. We were all picked 9 or 10 the other day,
if
mostly.
If you look at those numbers, that's not 3 first-round draft picks. That's not playoffs. And that's not a top 10 quarterback.
Well, I think it would be I do think that would be back-end top 10 quarterback. I think it would be somewhere between 8 and 12. And I think with those numbers, if the defense is a lot better and they're still running the ball well, yes, I think they could be the 6th or 7th seed in the playoffs. It's not division winning. You're not winning the division with those stats. No. But could you be the 6th or 7th? Could you be a wild card with those stats if the rest of the team is good? Yes.
If you tell me Chubb has 1,600 yards.
Well, we're going to Chubb next. You want to see what he has for Chubb?
See what he's got for Chubb.
You see that?
I bet he's got him over 1,400.
You see that?
No,
Let's roll.
he does not. He has Nick Chubb, 263 carries, 1,247 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns, 30 receptions, 272 reception yards, and 1 touchdown in the air. Thoughts?
So basically, he's got 5,000 yards between Watson and Chubb.
Essentially on the dot, yeah.
5,000, basically. I mean,
I do have Jerome Ford in here next, just a heads up.
Yeah, but right. Okay, so that'll be some in terms of his rushing yards. I'm guessing it's not that much, but
What did he do last year?
I just looked it up. 1,525 last year.
15.
When he didn't get the ball enough, he had 1,500 yards.
You select that one in there?
Yeah.
There you go.
How many and he had
12.
how many?
12
He
on
had
the
12
ground.
touchdowns?
12 on the ground. Yeah, and he's got him with 10 touchdowns total.
Given what he said Deshaun Watson had, this has to be higher.
I mean, I think it's reasonable on its own because I'm going to judge it on its own.
So you judging these on its own vacuum?
Yeah, I'm judging on its own. I think it's reasonable. I think the rushing yards and the touchdowns are a little I would say on the low end of my expectations for Chubb, but they're within reason. Jason?
I think his touchdowns might be higher than 9.
Yeah.
But I think rushing
But it's
yards,
not crazy to think he would finish the year with 10 total touchdowns. That's not crazy.
No, but
I expect a few more, but
they're gonna throw it more than they run it.
Yeah.
So I do think his yards are going to take a dip over what he was last year when he didn't get the ball enough. We're really going to hear about that this year.
Oh, we're going to go crazy.
Not if they're winning. Not if they're winning and scoring a lot of points.
I'm looking for his carries last
How many
year.
has he ever had? Would 272 yards receiving be a career high for him or no?
I'll tell you right now in 1 sec, but I believe it would be.
Yeah, no, 278 his second year.
Oh, okay.
So that puts him that's 73 yards a game. That's 73.
And what did he average last year?
89.
I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look at it in totality, right?
Yeah.
Because I believe that the run game as well as the passing game is supposed to complement each other. And if you tell me that, Deshaun Watson is only going to have 3,700 yards somewhere in that area, I expect Nick Chubb to be around 1,400. He ain't got to have 1,500. 1,400 and about 12 touchdowns is about what I'm expecting for Nick Chubb.
By the way, how many carries did Nick Chubb average per game last year? Do you remember? Was it like 16, 17?
I'll do the math in 1
Because
second.
based on these statistics, he has him averaging about 15 and a half carries per game.
He averaged 17.7.
Well, it's
so
40,
he'd be down about
40,
2
fewer
carries per
it's
game.
40 carry. Yeah, this has got him 40 carries less than he had last year when we heard all year long he didn't get the ball enough.
Yeah.
And this is 40 carries
I
less.
don't think he's going to carry the ball less this year because even though I think they're going to throw more, I don't think Jerome Ford will get as many touches as Kareem Hunt got.
I think he will carry less this year. I
think so?
I think Nick will. He's not getting 300 carries.
Because Ford will carry as much as Hunt, or because they'll just throw so much more?
They're going to keep throwing it.
So that's
Ford's
my
our next
point.
one.
If they throwing the ball that much and his carries are down, them numbers from Watson got to go up.
Yeah, I would think you want closer to 5,500 yards between Watson and Chubb.
I agree.
Actually, it is 5,500, including Watson's rushing yards.
Right.
So you want close to 6,000 between the two of them.
Yes.
Anyway,
Jerome Ford's up next. You guys just alluded to him. Mike Clay thinks Jerome Ford's going to be a pretty big part of the offense.
Wow.
110 carries, 473 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, 19 catches, 145 in the air, and just like Chubb, 1 reception touchdown.
I don't expect Jerome
I think
Ford.
it's high.
I think it's high. 110 carries. I don't see that. What did Kareem Hunt have last
I was
year?
just looking for that. He had 123 last year.
Yeah, I don't expect. I mean, I know. Listen, Stefanski likes to use more than one back.
He basically just ripped off Kareem's numbers from last year. Kareem last year, 123 carries, 468 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
I don't think this is that. I don't think this is that bad. And the reason I say it's that.
I mean, that would be good if he did that.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's going to get that many carries.
I think he's the reason why they just didn't bring no backs in. I think they really like him. I think they feel like, and I know this is blasphemous to say, like, oh, he's the replacement for. Nah, like, no one's going to replace Nick Chubb. But I think there's a chance as he gets older that, Nick Chubb's been really durable, but there's a chance he misses a game here, or a game where other than under 10 yards or under 10
That's
carries.
true. I mean, if Chubb missed some games, then Ford would get more
he definitely
carries.
But then again, if Chubb misses the game, I think they're going all out aerial attack. I think they would just really 5 wide it up, and then we would just say we had Deshaun.
Yeah,
and that's.
I don't know. I think Jerome Ford finishes with like 80 carries. Maybe I'm way off.
I think this is high.
Yeah. You like it? You think it's good?
I like it. I like he gonna get some third down back love. I like it on the fringes, like on the fringe.
All right.
All right, let's move on to the receivers here, Steve. We'll start with Amari Cooper. That is 180 in the rundown. 110 targets, 71 receptions, 959 reception yards, and 7 touchdowns for wide receiver 1.
What did he have last year? Like 1,200, right?
Yes.
This is tricky.
I know they've got more depth of talent now. I still expect his. I'd be very surprised if he's under 1,000 yards. So I'm going to say angry face. The touchdowns are right where I expect him to be. I expect him to be about 1,100 yards receiving. I don't know about you guys.
I actually think this is pretty spot on.
You think it's spot on?
Yeah. I mean, what's the difference in 960 and 1,000? 40 yards.
Well, I said 1,100.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but
yeah.
To me, that's close enough to 1,000. I think with all the talent that they brought in on offense and the way that I expect them to spread the ball around. I mean, what do you have? 73 catches last year?
This is
78
tough.
catches, 132 targets.
This is
so
very.
that's
This
being
is.
dispersed
I'm
to some
gonna
other
go
guys.
with Jason on this one. I think he's around 1,000. The touchdowns is spot on to me, but just here's the difficult part about projecting the passing game. A, we don't know what the passing game looks like. B, you don't know what Elijah Moore, what kind of connections these guys got. Mm-hmm. Usually, if you got a franchise quarterback, they pretty clearly declare, oh, this is my guy. If I'm looking for somebody, I will spoon feed this guy. And then there's other tertiary and a couple other secondary parts that you can get the ball to. I don't know who Deshaun Watson likes based on last year. I didn't see a
True.
pattern.
Not enough sample size.
He's just out there running around.
Not enough completions.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The completions wasn't there.
Fair.
So, like, I guess this seems kind of cool if you get 1,000. So, like, if you got, say, Amari Cooper got 950 and Elijah Moore got 980.
Let's see what he's got.
Oh,
Who's
we're
next?
getting there, G. We got them all. We even got Jordan Akins in here. Don't
See,
worry.
look
We got
at
them
that.
all.
Jordan
Right?
Akins. Who gives a crap about him?
Next, DPJ, you guys just alluded to him. According to Mike Clay, 70 targets, 45 receptions, just shy of 600 yards.
I
and
think
4
that's right on the
touchdowns.
money.
Ooh.
I think that's on the money.
So you down on DPJ?
Yeah, I think Elijah Moore. I think I could see him ending up 4th in receptions on the Browns.
I don't think that's unrealistic.
I think he could
Between
end up.
Njoku,
I think he's going to end up behind Njoku, Cooper,
Moore.
and Moore.
So that means you know how the Cleveland Browns elevation work. People love it. He got a six round pick. They love DPJ. They got him as a number 2 receiver. This don't look like number 2 receiver numbers.
No, I think
You don't feel he's a
Well,
number
he's
2?
not a number 2
I don't.
receiver this year.
Oh,
I think they
okay.
traded for Elijah Moore because they think he's a better
He's a number 2
receiver.
receiver.
Okay.
That's how I see it. So I think these numbers are pretty accurate.
Elijah Moore's up next.
Hold on. I was just waiting for other people to step along. I like DPJ a 6th round pick, but he's more of a 3. He's welcome to go out and prove me wrong, but I don't think he has enough. I don't even think he's going to have enough of the routes to even accumulate them yards. Like, he's going to be running sit-downs.
That could even be high. I could see him with under 500 yards receiving.
I could see him with 40, somewhere around 40 receptions. I could see it being a little longer, a little more yards, like maybe 650. But if he gets 650, that's a nice year for him.
It would be.
All right, moving on to Elijah Moore, the guy you guys just mentioned, the guy who the Browns brought in to compete for that number 2 receiving job. Similar to DPJ in the projections from Mike Clay, 70 targets, 42 receptions, 578 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns, 5 carries, and 28 rushing yards. I put them all in there. Thoughts?
I think this is low.
I think it's
super low.
I think it's in the lower end of reasonable. I'm expecting him to have like 750 yards.
Can you go back to DBJ? He's got him less than DBJ.
He got him.
Oh, yeah.
He's
No,
got him less
I'm with
than
you.
DBJ.
You're right.
That's
I changed my mind.
crazy.
You're right. I think Elijah Moore is going to be better. I think he's going to have 750 to 800 yards.
G?
I think you could push all 3. If Watson do what he's supposed to, you might see 3 receivers, including Njoku, with somewhere around 900.
Or 800.
8 somewhere in that if it's spread. But this is way too low though. This is way too low.
Yeah, I'm with you.
This is way too low.
All right, moving on to our next wide receiver on the list, the rookie, Cedric Tillman, 24 targets, 16 receptions, 195 yards.
That looks about right.
And 1 touchdown.
I mean, he's the 5th. He's going to be the 5th or 6th option. So I think Cedric Tillman. I think they're going to let DPJ walk after this year.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Cedric Tillman. DPJ and Amari Cooper could both be gone after this year. And then Cedric Tillman becomes a starter. I think he'll hopefully be more of a factor next year, maybe David Bell as well. But for now, Cedric Tillman, I can't see him doing much more than this.
The one that I kind of gripe with is actually touchdowns, because I think he could be a red zone package, red zone target guy.
He's big.
He is big and a guy who can go high point the ball. I think everything else probably – I think the receptions are a little low. I think he'll have a little bit more than that. It's close, but I'm going to disagree because I think he could have a handful more touchdowns, and I think that's the most important category on that board.
I could see him having 3 touchdowns. I could see him get maybe 250, 3 touchdowns. But he's a rookie. I don't know. He might pull a hamstring in camp and never play.
David Bell couldn't get on the field
at all.
Anthony Schwartz has been on the field in 2 years.
If everybody's healthy, he's the 4th receiver.
Right. I just think I could see him being a red zone target, red zone package guy.
True.
And a guy who could – I mean, he may have 22 catches and 3 of them are touchdowns.
Yeah. That's true. See that.
You mentioned David Bell. Let's see what Mike Clay thinks for the second-year receiver. Essentially the same numbers as Tillman. I think he slotted those 2 into the same spot. 24 targets, 16 catches, 186 receiving yards, and a touchdown.
I guess that's it, yeah.
Tough to really project.
Hey,
David
listen.
Bell.
It's hard to – even if he doesn't catch a pass, they're not that far off. So,
my goodness, these little Minimoski. I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to keep saying it. Hey, David Bell, do not let Anthony Schwartz come out here and run something back, bro. Because they're going to look at you funny style. Like, they're going to look at you like, you might.
Do we have Schwartz projections and Marquise Goodwin?
We do. Marquise Goodwin was 3 catches for like 28 yards.
Okay.
What are
So
Schwartz's projections at Dillard's?
Don't you disrespect him. You can at least put him at Kaufman. You put him at Eddie Bauer. You don't put him over at Dillard's. Don't I even got Dillard's no more, man. Like, I got him.
Oh, you think they got Kaufman? Kaufman's been around in 20 years.
Sears Roebuck.
Speaking of which, I was listening to one of my favorite comedians now, Nate Bargatze. Anybody listen to him?
I'm quasi-familiar.
You got to check his stand-up. He's like really dry sense of humor. He's from the South, but he doesn't do like the typical Southern humor. And I don't usually like Southern comics, but he's really good. And I was listening on the radio, and he was doing this bit today about like how nobody goes to Kmart, and even when you go into a Kmart, it always looks like it's about to close, even though it's open 24 hours.
It's super fat. Like, hey, you ain't lying.
And he was like, I walked up to this guy, and I was like, can you tell me where the razors are? And then the guy looked at me and said, well, I don't work here. And he goes, I realized I was judging him because he had a face that looked like a Kmart employee.
Hey, like you go to Mark's. Like, bro, there ain't no rhyme or reason why you have salami in the middle of the floor, but then it'd be like bed sheets. You like, why is the sheets in the salami at the same area? And they'd be like, well, this is just marks. It's like a rummage sale.
Yeah.
You just get it, and you can barter. You can be like, you know what? I saw this tool set over here. I'll give you $5 for it.
We got 2 more that we're going to bring on G's former high school teammate, Antonio Hall, who's sitting in the queue laughing at you right now, G.
Right.
So we'll bring him in 1 sec. But first, the 2 tight ends. David Njoku up first, 70 targets, 51 receptions, 566 receiving yards, and 5 touchdowns.
I think he's going to do better, but I think this is within reason. I mean, the touchdowns, I'm expecting like 650, 700 yards for David Njoku this year. I think it's close enough. I think he'll be a little better than this, but around these numbers.
You already know it. You know, last year I got to double down on what I said. David Njoku, I've been projecting you for the last 3.5 years to get into that Kittle-Kelsey area.
I hope so, because I got him on my Dynasty League football team now, so I'll be rooting for him even more.
I need you
Let's go.
to bust out your first 1,000-yard season as a tight end.
That's a lot to ask right
Hey,
there.
listen, I know. Listen, actually, to be truthful, this is a wish upon a star.
Yeah.
It's probably not even going to happen. But I got to double down. David Njoku, 1,050.
Oh,
Wow.
1,000, Jason.
I told you by September, G's going to have Deshaun with 7,000 passing yards.
Yes.
4,000-yard receivers.
See, we asked ourselves, where is the missing 500 yards coming from Deshaun's stats? I waited to now to get that to you.
That's
and when
true.
you find out that David Njoku had those 500 and touchdowns, I got him.
if David Njoku has 1,000 yards, the Browns are having a hell of a season. I'll tell you that.
1,050, and about 9 touchdowns.
All right, we got one more with this slappy tight end.
We have one more. He was Deshaun's go-to red zone target in Houston, so he threw him on here. Jordan Akins, 10 catches, 117 yards, and 1 reception
How
touchdown.
did this guy make the edit?
Jordan Akins.
They put Jordan Akins in the edit. Like
I think that's too high.
That's too high? You don't even think he's got
I'm going too low. He's gonna score 4 times this year.
Hey, I gotta disrespect him by to put an imaginary D in his name. I'm just calling you imaginary Jordan Atkins.
Yeah,
I can't
let's
say
change his
Akins.
name. Jordan Akins. The Texans had nobody. They had 1 receiver. They had no running backs. The Browns got way more talent at the skill positions than the Texans did. He ain't throwing a friggin' Jordan Akins. They better not. Deshaun, listen to me, my friend. Don't be wasting no touchdowns to Jordan Akins. I need those to David Njoku fantasy touchdowns. If David Njoku loses touchdowns in fantasy to Jordan freaking Akins, I'm going to be pissed off.
Don't
Don't mess around with me.
And with that PSA, let us do an ad read and bring in our next guest. If you guys are ever in the great city of Canton, you can check out the High School Football Hall of Fame now and some USFL action. It is family-friendly fun. Boogie Roberts and the Pittsburgh Maulers are in Canton for their next 4 home games.
And they work out at McKinley High School.
Yeah.
They do work out at McKinley High School, which we have to address with G. But Boogie home for the next 4 weeks. We got to make it down to a game. Check them out at USFL.com. $10 for tickets. Family-friendly fun for everybody. And with that, Antonio Hall, how you doing, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
We're doing good. G, you got any stories? You just want to break the ice here?
Listen, man. Listen. First of all, I told you I was wearing this joint immediately. I came down.
It looks good on you, baby.
First thing I said, "Where's the gear at?" I didn't even say nothing. I just said, "Where's the gear? My joint is old. I need and give me a visor." I just tape it on my glasses.
But wait a second. You said that when you guys first met, he was the big guy. You were the big guy on one side of the town. He was the big guy on the other side of town. And then you played baseball first.
Yeah.
And then you played basketball. So who got the better end in those 2 sports when you guys played?
So in baseball, he played for the team called the Tigers. I played for the Royals. I believe that we beat the Tigers in the championship, right? Not the championship, but it was the playoffs. Then
Playoffs, right? You guys won your side of town. We won our side of town. Y'all beat us by, I think, 1 in the playoff game.
And in basketball, he played for Crenshaw. I played for Lehman. Now, we got smoked. I played with a bunch of guys that look like you and Jason. He had
What are you
all.
saying? They're white?
Yeah, he had Earl. He had all.
But Earl can't play basketball.
But you get what I'm saying. He had all the brothers, man. Shout out to my rest in peace. They had.
You were the only black guy on the team?
Me and Mikey Benison was the only.
I mean,
black
Mike. Listen, behind the scenes, Mike is white, Earl is black, and Mike is much better at basketball.
Bro, listen. But at that time, they was trapping us and stuff. They was trapping us, and our dudes, and they was playing hood ball with us. They was hitting them with forearms.
Yeah, those
and stuff.
white guys can't handle that stuff.
It was messed up. Y'all don't really
wimps.
get good to high school. Then y'all hit threes and y'all get all the calls. That's how it works.
So you got your ass kicked, is what
we
you're
got
saying.
smoked in basketball. Then we played on the same basketball team, right? And so we just talked about it there. Like I used to eat like in the bathroom. And our coach at the time was like, look, we had a certain amount of time to be on the court. But I would go to the bathroom and eat snacks out the vending machine. And so the coach comes in the bathroom. I
can appreciate that. As a fellow fat guy, I can appreciate snacks in the bathroom.
So Antonio would be so mad, bro. He'd be like, why is you in the bathroom again? We used to have to do tip drill.
Was he mad that you were eating in the bathroom or that you weren't sharing?
No, he was mad because I was late on the joint and we had to run. And they was like, I caught our Coach Les had a high-pitched voice. He said, I caught Bush in the bathroom eating some Doritos. Tip drill. Everybody tip drill. I said, so we line up before we do it, and they'd be like, man, G. Bush, why don't you just eat that on the bus? I'm like, bro, I got hungry. Look, bro.
Is this all true?
Facts.
Is this an accurate Antonio?
These are all facts. These are all facts.
Oh my God.
All facts.
That is so funny.
But Antonio, we played on the same high school team. We went to he went to Kentucky, I went to OU. And then, it was crazy because a couple of years ago, I think it's just your fourth year there, right? Or is your fifth year?
Yeah, going to my fourth year as the AD, going to the third year as the head coach.
So he's the assistant, the AD, saying he's the head coach of the football team. So now it's crazy because I be just walking in. And before, I'm like, oh, you got all the keys? I'll be like, what's behind that door? Open, you got keys to that too? Like, I just be going all around. So shout out to him. But the great thing about it is, they got this thing called the High School Hall of Fame. And, I'll let you get into more of it. But I thought it was great because it's not only like the National Hall of Fame, but it also definitely highlights administrators, it highlights teams, it highlights individuals and coaches. So it's just not, hey, you put up a bunch of numbers and you get in the Hall of Fame. It's about the impact that you had. And Antonio, how did you linked up with a couple of guys. I met Dave yesterday, and Lamont had wrote something as well. How did this all come together, and what was your thought process in doing this?
Mm-hmm. Well, Lamont patented it, I believe, back in 2010, and he had talked to 8-10 cities throughout the country about bringing it there, but he kept circling back to Canton for obvious reasons. We have the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now we have the NHBCU Black College Football Hall of Fame. And there's just more and more things that revolve around football being brought to Canton.
Hey, Antonio, could you log
not
out?
only with the history of pro football being here, but with having McKinley and Massillon here.
Yeah, we got a bad connection, so
we're gonna get him to hop back in.
Yeah. He was sounding fine at first, and then obviously we got
I don't know
a bad
what happened there.
connection.
We're gonna have him hop back in.
We're trying to work
I'll
through it, so
right
we'll
now.
get back
Give me
to
1
it.
sec.
So he's been coaching at Euro High School for 3 years. Were you guys the same year in school?
Yeah, so we same year in school. So we graduated in 2000. Mike Doss graduated a year prior to us. So, the crazy thing is, when I went down to the Hall of Fame Village, I heard Boogie on talking about the USFL practicing there.
Right, yeah.
And so, I went, and me and Earl were down there. I'm like, man, how's they practicing down there? And then I walked into the facilities and was like, oh, yeah, this ain't taxpayer money, Jason. This is all like NFL. Like, they got an indoor facility. There's a Ferris wheel. It's a bunch of stuff. And we walked into the locker room and walked into the weight room, and we was like, hey, who is these dudes? I was looking around like, hey, bro, hey, Tone, where you get these cats from? He was like, oh, no, them ain't high school dudes. Them is USFL cats. I said, how the heck you lose the master if you got dudes like that? I'm like, this dude got tattoo on his neck. I'm like, he look real. That dude look like he's a real dude, bro. I'm like, this cat is crazy. But the USFL be practicing down there. It's a beautiful facility. And it's just crazy how it looks as far as night and day from where I came up. It's crazy.
It's amazing now, like with high school football, these kids are practicing year-round now.
Oh.
Right? I mean, all summer long.
You can't. Back in the day, I remember I had a job. Like, we was having, like, regular jobs and summer jobs and different things like that. It ain't like that no more. These dudes will be out there working out. They do 7-on-7. You know, camps now are almost like I think camps are like auditions. Like, when you go to camps, before it was like, hey, let me just get out of town. And, like, no, now these kids go to camps and they looking to try to get scholarships and get placed different places.
Yeah.
So that's a really big,
We
big
got
part
Antonio back.
Let's try to bring him back on. Coach, sorry about that. A system glitch on our end, nothing on yours. Appreciate the patience. But you were saying earlier about bringing the Hall of Fame to Canton?
Yeah, we just, with every conversation that we had, it just made sense to bring it to Canton, Ohio. And I talked to some people in the city, talked to a couple other people who could make that happen. Everybody was on board. The school district was very happy to temporarily host it while we find a permanent home for it. And so it seems like everything just aligned at the right time, and we pulled the trigger.
Antonio, it seems like, I mean, high school football, how do you find out, like, other parts of the country, it must take so much work to find out who's deserving. It's not like professional football or even college where you can get everything online. With high school, especially in small schools throughout, if it's a whole national Hall of Fame, like, how much work is it to find out who belongs in there?
It's a lot of work. It honestly is, and it's a lot of networking. It's a lot of just pulling on the resources that you do. They do have state high school football Hall of Fame, and so we're able to try to pull from that, and also just with networks like my coach Tom McDaniels, who knows everybody and knows of everybody, and just talking to the resources that we have, being able to utilize the internet when we can, and also pull on some of those resources that are local and a lot of places are regional. We just piece this thing together.
Your first class is pretty much an important one because it really sets the standard for what you're looking for somebody to be in a National High School Hall of Fame. Give me a couple of the highlighted members that you're going to inaugurate and induct into the Hall of Fame as part of your first class.
Well, it's very exciting, having Bernie Kosar be a part of this. I mean, obviously, he's a celebrity in his own right, from his college days to his NFL days, and him being a perennial Cleveland Brown, Northeast Ohio guy. This is coming to Canton. So, having a guy like Bernie is a very big deal. Guys like Mike Doss, who's pretty much in every football Hall of Fame. This guy's one of the greatest safeties of all time. And, the fact that me and you played with him, that's a big deal. The entire Manning family. I mean, you got all four Mannings, Archie and the boys. That's huge. And just having them be a part of it, it brings a lot of relevance for us to the table. And so that's very exciting. Marcus Dupree, we all saw the 30 for 30 and knew how big a name he was coming out of high school. So those are a few of the headliners. Those are a few of the guys, a few of the names that people know. And it's very exciting that we can build the class around them.
Antonio, I'm curious, in terms of, we were just talking about this briefly when we lost you there for a sec, the commitment that kids have to have for high school football. I mean, it's more than any other sport. I mean, my buddy, his son plays offensive line at I can't remember the name of the school, but it's in Pennsylvania, where obviously they take football very seriously, like we do here in Ohio. And he's like, yeah, a kid can't even work a summer job because he's like doing 3-a-days or what. I mean, like I didn't realize it was that much. I mean, this is some serious commitment for kids to play high school football, right?
It definitely is. But we also try to find that silver lining so that our kids can still have somewhat of a life outside of football. And so while we do go year round, we do try to specifically window time so that, kids get development, but they also have a chance to be a kid as well. I'm a very big proponent on mental health. I'm a very big proponent on, kids having an outlet and a release outside of athletics because they put so much pressure on themselves to compete. And so while I do want them here, while I do want tabs on them, I also want them to have time to let their hair down and be a kid as well.
Antonio, what's your best G. Bush story?
Oh, let's see. Best G. Bush story that I could tell publicly. I'll never forget. It was I think it was our sophomore year, G. Bush, that you was on kickoff.
Yeah.
So Garrett was about 6'4", about 255, 260 pounds, and he was on our kickoff team. And I remember, I forget which game it was. It was probably week 3 or 4. It was one of the early games. And I just saw like people cowering, like would not get in his way. Like Garrett literally looked like he was Marion Motley or somebody out there running down on kickoff. I like literally you saw the team petrified trying to block Garrett on kickoff.
Man, that year, we forgot to tell him, like, so me and Antonio used to be in choir together. And so, Antonio
show choir.
Show choir. We had dancing and everything. He recruited me, right? He recruited me. And the only reason that I got in there is because I wanted to go to prom with this girl named Colette Sims. And so Tone was like, bro, I'm not hooking you up with her unless you join choir.
Was she in choir?
Yeah, she was in choir, right?
Okay.
And then I got in, and I didn't even get to dance with her. Like, while we was doing, they put me, and I was like, bro, I came here, Tone, you got to talk to the choir director, because, like, I'm not dancing with her. This is crazy. So, yeah, that was.
But did you ever ask her out?
Oh, yeah, she went to homecoming with me, yeah. Yeah,
well done.
Well done.
More importantly, I didn't know you could sing. You got to sing now.
Man, you
can
sing
gotta and dance.
You got to pay for that. Like
that's the overtime segment.
That's the overtime segment.
Yeah. So, what was that? I mean, we've talked about it with G. Bush a lot about winning that championship. But what's the first thing that comes to mind memories wise of being a champion that year?
Man, just truly how player led we were, the tremendous leadership that we had with that 98 class. I mean 97 team, but they graduated in 98. I mean, I remember us beating Massillon by double digits, and the captains and seniors calling the team meeting right after the game and expressing how disappointed they were because we should have beat them worse than that. And if for us to win the championship, we're going to have to play a lot better than we did. And so, I've been a part of a lot of McKinley Massillon games and just the elation that you have after beating the other guy. But that year was just different. Like, good wasn't good enough. And we just held each other to a different standard that I haven't seen prior. And I think that's what made that team so special.
Well, they asked me about the Massillon record. They as soon as I came in, told them, they said, yeah, Boogie said they got the countdown right up because Boogie, he plays for the USFL. He said, yeah, they got the countdown to beating their rival or whatever. They said they ain't beat them since 16. Like, what is that like to be a player and for you as a player to understand, like, to have 2 state championships and never remember losing to Massillon, and how difficult that is that now as a coach because you bear those things too. Like, is that something that keeps you up? Is that something that burns you when you go to sleep? How do you feel about that?
Oh man, it's definitely a constant motivation. You know how tiresome this job can be, how much this can pull on you. But with that at the forefront of your mind, it's definitely new motivation every day. I mean, I even got Massillon as my screensaver on my cell phone So it's a constant reminder of what I got to do every day. And so it's very serious, it's very real, and we plan on turning the tides this year.
So before we let you go, let everybody know when the inauguration will be, when the first class goes in, and what to expect, moving forward from the National High School Hall of Fame.
Definitely. So the first ceremony is going to be July 30th, this July. It's going to be at the Timken campus, which is downtown. It's McKinley, but it's the Timken campus. And from there, we plan on having some regional 7-on-7 tournaments that will lead into a national tournament here in Canton, Ohio. We plan on having National Team of the Year, National Coach of the Year, Offensive and Defensive Player of the Year under the National High School Football Hall of Fame. So definitely want to be involved with regional communities. We definitely want to be involved with growing the brand of football, growing the sport itself. I mean, a lot of people was come out with the CTE and other data are kind of leery with football now. So just getting football out to people, making sure that parents know it's safe, that we're coaching it the right way, we're doing it the right way. There's new technology, so we can get the numbers back up and really propel this sport.
Thanks, Antonio. Appreciate you taking the time, man. Best of luck with the Hall of Fame with your season this year.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right.
Got it.
Go Bulldogs.
There you go. Big
Go
year.
Bucks.
Yes, sir.
Big year. Mikey, what do you got for us?
Awesome. No, we appreciate Antonio for taking some time out of his day to do that. And, G, anytime we get to hear stories from your former teammates about the chaos you caused in high school is always a good time. And I just want to point out a few chat comments here for our PCC Airfoils read of the day. If you're looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits, well, PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. G, everyone's roasting you for that Dorito story. Gus Johnson says Maine's on that Burger King Wi-Fi, talking about Antonio to start. Roberto El Presidente says G. Bush has to sing a PCC jingle at some point, which I do think that may have to happen. A little you and Eddie collab coming. And Gus Johnson says G. Bush looks nervous as hell. They ain't rehearsed this part of the show yet. So,
What part of the show?
I don't know.
Oh, all right.
Probably the give me your best G. Bush story.
Oh.
Oh yeah, that is. No, there's a bunch of G. Bush stories. He had to really think hard for that because there's like
To do a clean one.
Yeah, you gotta do clean ones, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? You can't have like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, obviously you guys weren't here yesterday. We spent, 3/4 of the show talking about Jim Brown and his legacy. And I know you talked a little bit with Bernie and Mike Doss about it yesterday, but obviously wanted to give both of you guys a few minutes to comment on the passing of Jim Brown.
Yeah. I had it was kind of strange because Jay had I think he has either saw Jim Brown or he had known somebody that had saw Jim Brown. He said, he was, he wasn't looking too good. And so that got our wheels already behind the scenes thinking, right? And so, when the timing and the news passed down, I think one of the best things that I could say about Jim Brown is not only what he did on the field, but what he did off the fields. I was watching on YouTube, and as when he passed away, I went down and I was looking at some of his interviews, and he was either talking, he was on a late night show, and he was talking to the governor of, I believe it was either Alabama, Mississippi, or Georgia, one of the three, and he was just sitting there on this late night show, and just to give you the climate, the climate of where everything happened at that time, they was talking about segregation. Now, at the time, segregation was it was still going on. And the governor was saying that he was against desegregating schools. And it was crazy because Jim Brown was sitting there, and he was so articulate in debating a politician about why it was ridiculous that segregation was still going on in schools in the South. And to me, it really dawned on me that at the levels to different certain things, right? Jim Brown was talking about civil rights when you couldn't even drink from the same water fountain. that's a whole different level. Like, we talk about people kneeling for the flag and different things like that, but here's a guy who was a football player that still had the ability to come out and say, not only am I a great football player, but I'm going to be able to be articulate enough to really sit down and debate civil rights and what things need to be in this country. And so when people used to tell athletes in early 2000s, 2010s, it was a really cool thing for people to just say, shut up and dribble. It was really a thing where people felt comfortable in saying, just stick to sports. But sometimes that's why you got to go back and you got to check on your past and your history. If you're going to tell me just stick to sports and I'm supposed to listen to that, I got to go back and watch what Jim Brown was doing when he couldn't even drink from the same water fountains. It wasn't no such thing as just sticking to sports. That was his life. That was his everyday life. He was a person that only was in it. He lived it. So I go back and watch that, and I just give so much upward, some respect and homage to what he did, because he's able to have people like myself be able to say and talk the way I do with confidence, because I know that certain times when you speak against certain things, it's not going to be liked. In the moment, it's not going to be popular. But you also have a right and responsibility to speak to those things. And Jim Brown was a pioneer for all African Americans, especially athletes, about being socially aware, socially active. So I really want to salute Jim Brown for that, because he put us on the map doing that.
Jason?
I spent a lot of time this weekend talking to former teammates of his, people who knew him. I had to do a big story for The Athletic that ran yesterday. And I spoke to Jim Bailey, who was he was sort of Art Modell's right-hand man for a number of years, for really 2 decades in Cleveland and Baltimore. Talked to John Wooten. John played with Jim in Cleveland. He was really one of Jim's close confidants, and he was the guy when they assembled the Cleveland Summit. Jim called John and said, get the guys together. You know who to get. And when Jim retired from the Browns, he called John and said, tell the boys, this is going to hit in 2 days. I'm giving you 2 days to tell the guys I'm not coming back. And it was just sort of fascinating for me to dig into the story of how he really retired and why he really retired. And Jim Bailey, Art's right-hand man, and I had never known this, said that Art told people he helped get Jim the role in the running in Dirty Dozen, and that's the role that ended up driving him out of the NFL. So Art cost himself with that, in typical Art fashion, and because Art had a lot of Hollywood ties, he came from the TV, he had a big TV background, and so Jim wanted to get into acting, and I think he had done one role prior too, but this is Art's version of it. Art told people that he helped Jim get that role. And then when filming ran long, Art was like, man, I got that role for you. And he was feeling pressure from Blanton Collier to get Blanton wanted him back. And Jim kept telling him, like, listen, I'll be good for the games. It's just the practices. Like, I'm going to miss training camp and I'm going to miss some practices. But the way John Wooten described it to me was Jim said, I'll be ready to fly. We'll fly when I get there, meaning I'll be in shape and we'll go. And that wasn't good enough for Art. And Art started threatening him. And you don't threaten Jim Brown.
Dumbass.
And Jim Bailey said, like, Jim said that they were two of the most stubborn people he's ever met. And neither one was going to give on the other one. And so Jim said, well, you can't find me if I'm not there, so I'm out. And he could have played, I talked to Walter. This is another good one. I talked to Walter Beach, who was another one of his former teammates, another one of the guys who was at the Cleveland Summit. And the Browns, Walter was 30 by the time he got to the NFL. He went to the military, went to college, played in the AFL. So he was 30 when he arrived in the NFL. And the Browns were going to cut him. And I think it was 64. They were going to cut him. And Jim had nicknamed him Doc and said, come on, Doc, let's go to practice. And Walter said, I just got cut. And Jim didn't believe him.
Said,
and Walter's like, I'm sitting here cleaning out my locker. Like, what do you think I'm doing this for? And it was in the middle of two-a-days. It's back when they were doing two-a-days. It was after the morning session before the afternoon session. And Jim said, wait right here. And he went in Blanton's office, came back a few minutes later and said, okay, come on, Doc, let's go to practice. and Walter said it was so surreal. He said, they're putting my stuff back in my locker. And no one ever told him he was back on the team. No one ever told him he wasn't getting cut. It was just understood. As long as Jim Brown was in Cleveland, Walter Beach was in Cleveland. The day Jim Brown retired, Walter Beach got a phone call. Don't bother coming to camp. You've been cut.
Wow.
Hey, listen.
That's crazy.
That's what we call.
That's power.
That's cool.
But Gio, to your point about the role he played as an activist in moving forward the civil rights movement, and I think it was John who told me, John Wooten. I had a fascinating conversation with him. I spoke to John for a couple hours, and John had a great career. Worked in the front office with the Ravens, was the chairman of the Fritz Pollard Alliance. So he's done really well for himself. And John said, Jim told John, like, listen, we can't do these sit-ins, we can't march, but we have to be part of this. And that's where Jim came up with the Black Economic Union, at the time the Negro Industrial Economic Union. And it was really a sort of bank, because the black community couldn't go to the bank and get a loan to start small businesses. So Jim secured $1 million grant from the Ford Foundation. And it was sort of a bank for blacks who wanted to come in and start a business. You could go to his company, not just in Cleveland, across the country. And you could open your own barbershop, your own grocery store, your own dry cleaner. Yeah. And Jim pounded economics and education. He said, what good is it if we have equal rights if we can't afford to live in Shaker Heights and Cleveland Heights and some of these other places? Right. What good is equal rights if we don't have the income and the means and the wherewithal in order to buy homes in those areas? And so that's where he started the Amari Can and reformed gang members and got them as members of society. And he brought one of his Amari Can graduates, if you want to call them that. And Jim Bailey told me when Belichick was here, Belichick would have Jim come in and talk to the rookies. And, Cleveland didn't have a great reputation at the time, and they wanted to get the rookies in quick, and they wanted to get these guys talking to what it's like to be a Brown and how it can be good. And he said, Jim walked in and said, you guys ain't nothing, you ain't accomplished nothing, and just tore them apart. And he said he brought this Amari Can graduate, and it's just this little guy. And he goes, this guy's accomplished more than you have, and get off your high horse, and you ain't done nothing yet, and you aren't entitled to anything. And you hear they're bringing in these former players to tell how great the NFL is and how great Cleveland is, and Jim Brown just destroyed them all.
What's funny about that is because Leroy was on with us yesterday, and he was pretty good friends with Jim Brown. He was telling us how he played golf with him all the time. It would be him, Jim, and Lawrence Taylor, and one other guy. I don't think he said who the other person was, but anyway, Leroy made the point of saying, if you wanted a straight answer, if you wanted the truth, then you could ask Jim Brown anything. He'll tell you the truth.
He'll tell you the truth.
But if you're sensitive and can't handle it, it's to the point of what you just said. Jim Brown's the wrong person to ask a question to. And I respect that. I love someone who's willing to give you the honest answer. No matter how tough it is.
And John told me he didn't want a funeral. There's not going to be, according to John Wooten, his close friend, there will be no funeral.
So they were close friends to the end?
Yeah. And the last time John saw him was at the NFL Honors in February.
Right.
And he said, Jim kept asking him, are you okay financially? Are you okay? Do you need money? And John's like, man, I'm fine. Like, I'm good. And John says that was Jim's way of saying goodbye. He knew that was probably the last time he was going to see his friend. So he said Jim wants to be cremated and have his ashes spread on St. Simon's Island in Georgia, where he was born. And there's a specific spot. His wife knows the spot. And he'll have his ashes cremated, or he'll be cremated and have his ashes spread where he was born. The Browns will probably do something, some sort of celebration of Jim later on.
You got to have the number on the helmet, don't you?
I would think they'll do a patch either on the jersey or the helmet somewhere.
Jersey,
they'll do something. I think the Browns will handle this right. The Browns have already been in contact with John Wooten and some of those that were close to him.
Right. There
will be some sort of celebration of Jim, I think, at some point, probably this summer.
Yeah.
A lot of his teammates who are still here, let's be honest, there's not a lot of them left.
Sure.
But the ones who were close to him will be here. And John told me they want to make this to the public. They want the public to be involved in that.
Absolutely.
So I think I haven't talked to anyone with the Browns about that. It's still obviously very early.
Right.
But the no funeral thing was interesting to me. He did not want a funeral. He did not want any fanfare or anything like that. He just wanted to be cremated and have his ashes spread in Georgia.
I'd love to see the 32 on the helmet on the field.
I can make the case every jersey in the league should have a 32 patch on it.
I agree.
You know what? You're right.
I agree.
I mean, he meant that much.
I mean, when you universally ask who, especially if you get past 40, 50 years old.
50 years old.
50 years old, you say who the best player ever?
They'll say Jim Brown.
Yeah.
And one other interesting point in all this, and again, John Wooten was heavily involved in the Fritz Pollard Alliance. He was the chairman, and that's, of course, trying to get more minorities and coaches involved. And he was upset that it took so long for them to name any sort of award after Jim. And
Good point.
They now have the Jim Brown.
It's a rushing title.
Thank you. Yeah, they named the rushing title after him. And I didn't get – this just didn't fit in the story. And John was ecstatic for that. He said it's something that we banged on the league for years for, to honor Jim in some way with some sort. And I said, well, do you think that they were slow just because of the personal stuff? And, I mean, it's a complicated legacy, and we can't just sweep that under the rug. And John said, no, he doesn't think it's that. He just thinks that the NFL has been slow to honor the black culture and the black players that came before him. He said if you look at Bill Russell and the way that the NBA has embraced Bill and Jackie Robinson Day and all of baseball that wears number 42, they never did that for Jim, and Jim has always been sort of shoved in the corner, he feels like, in NFL history. I do think it has a lot to do with some of the personal stuff that went on in his treatment toward women. And he doesn't think it. We disagree on that. But he just thinks that the NFL hasn't done a good enough job of honoring, as a whole, Jim Brown and what he's meant to the league.
By the way, on yesterday's show, we talked about him in The Dirty Dozen because I love that movie.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen The Dirty? Have you ever seen it?
Yes.
That's
I got to watch it now.
the scene. Well, I don't want to give it away. Spoil it. 50
It's
years
60
later.
years old.
You got to watch it. It holds
I
up.
will.
I've watched it in recent years. It still holds up. It's a great cast. But you started to say Running Man, I think, right? Because he was in that too. And I mentioned that yesterday. I love that movie.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen a Jim Brown movie, actually.
You've never seen Running Man either?
No.
Oh, my God. You got to see both of those. That's a little dated, but still, it's great. Great cast in both. All right, Mikey, go ahead.
It is officially 12:06, which means we have entered the lunch hour of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And as always, the lunch hour is brought to us by Calling Companies Championship. July 12th through the 16th at the famous Firestone Country Club. There is fun, family-friendly events all week long featuring a brand-new fan zone experience, free attendance for kids, and concerts every night. Something for everyone. Check them out at callinggolf.com. We have Tom Hamilton, the legendary.
I think we got to blow off that Cavs topic today, right?
Yeah, we can do that another day.
Yeah,
so
I
you
don't
want to
think we
spend
have
a few
enough
minutes on the Guardians instead?
Yeah, I want to get a couple minutes on the Guardians before Tom Hamilton, but there's this pet peeve that's been bothering me that I got to share.
Shoot.
And I want to know if you guys agree with me. I hate when I go, like today it happened, I went through a drive-through, okay? And my food was whatever it was. And they're like, do you want to raise it up to round up to $10 to give money to kids for school? I'm like, how am I supposed to say no to that?
Oh, I say no. I say no.
You see, when it's in the
Jason has no problem.
When they do it at Walgreens, and I just got to push the button. At least if I say no, it's anonymous. In the drive-thru, I'm gonna no, I don't want those kids to go to school. Screw them. I'm like, yeah.
It depends where I'm at, and it depends on how good their sale is.
Yeah,
right.
Their sales pitch, because sometimes I think, is it really going?
Yeah,
or is it going to some corporate exec?
I don't know, like. You know, it's not the 40 cents that you're giving. It's the principle of the thing. I'll donate to who I want to donate to.
I'm a sucker for if it's a little kid or like they'll come up to you and be like, yo, do you want to buy this candy for this? And I'm like, yeah, I'll just buy the whole box for something stupid. Or back in the day, it'd be like, yo, if it was a girl that was selling something, they could sell me anything. I don't care. Like, I'd just be like, yeah, I'm just standing here looking. Now, no, I'm not doing that. Now I'll be like, nah, I can't do that, dog. You got to really have a sales pitch, and you really got to do it in a smooth way for me to just accept that. But I'm not going to be doing it in no drive-through.
Yeah, well, I got snookered into it.
Oh, you got the drive-through? They got you?
Yeah, they got me. I was like, yeah, okay, all right.
Well, before people think I'm heartless, we do sponsor a little boy in Mexico.
Oh, there you go.
Our family does.
So
we do.
You up underneath that? You under the
you bringing them over?
the umbrella?
No,
you bring him over to live in the house?
No. We just pay for his housing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
that's
See,
cool.
So yeah,
we did
blanket.
it previously and we're doing it again. It's really important for my daughter and son and everything.
So now that Jason said that, I do. Matter of fact, we sponsor families during Christmas for toys and stuff. They get the list of families. So, McNuggets, what do you do?
I'm not sponsoring nobody. Screw that.
Until last year, I was literally making minimum wage, and I could barely sponsor myself.
Yeah,
right.
You want to know what living in it's not that far.
Let's not get carried away.
6 months ago, me and McNuggets we had to sponsor. We was looking for sponsors.
Real quick, G, my 6th year in TV was last year in Texas. What do you think I was making my 6th year in TV?
6th year in Texas.
TV.
shouldn't talk about salaries.
Well,
on
no,
the air.
because now I make
Well, go ahead.
regular person money.
Yeah.
He can feed himself. Congratulations. I like that.
Yeah.
What?
Please don't say it was under 26.
My first salary was 22. I was making $31,000 in Texas in my 6th year in TV.
Dude, you say that as if like that's no money. There's people that make less than that.
That's what I'm saying. It's not.
That's almost
it should be-
20,
But as you-
22 is close to the poverty line.
As I drove to work every day, I passed Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
And they had the fry cook. Like
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
But that was making more money than I was making on TV.
Yeah. Well,
And good for people in fry. I'm just saying.
Hey, when
I
made a lot less than
sponsored
that in my
myself.
first
I
job,
was
so.
unable to afford to sponsor anyone else besides
All right.
myself.
My first job, I was
Yeah.
still in Kent. I had 1 semester left, and I was
Yeah.
working full time at the Morning Journal in Lorraine,
Mm-hmm.
covering Ohio State. I was making $22,000 a year, making $425 a week. I thought I was rich.
you thought you was
what
rolling.
year was that?
2000. In 2000, I'd show up at Ray's on a Thursday night in Kent with $500. I felt like Donald Trump in there with $500.
And by the way, so here's the funny part about that. When you in college towns, right, when you drink a lot and you party a lot, they know who you is. So you've been going to these places forever. So you start getting hookups. So you just say, you want to open a tab? Hell yeah, I want to open a tab. You run that boy all night. You get that bill might be $150. Might be $160. Man, I did that one time on accident in a regular city. Man, I had to call people. Hey, dog, I need that Western Union, dog. These
Like
dudes,
$1,000.
this dude hit me with the 986. And I said, I just had some Jack and Diets. They said, nah, bro. You bought all them martinis and sexes on the beaches all for them girls. Them was $35 a drink. You didn't even know it. Never run a tab in the city. And you realize that it's a whole different economic level from college to regular people, adult life. You go in there and drink one beer. Beer be like $12.
By the way, when I see them selling them Boy Scout cookies or Girl Scout cookies in front of the Super, I ain't buying that crap.
Why not?
Because I'll buy it from people I know, like family and friends. I'm not buying from some random stranger.
Girl Scout cookies definitely have crack in them.
They
I
do.
will agree.
They do.
Definitely.
Plus, I'm anti-Boy
crack.
Scouts anyway.
The best cookies, the tag-alongs, the peanut butter,
Yes.
those are.
I don't like
They're
peanut
so
butter.
good.
You can get them like the exact same cookie for like $1
They're
a box.
$1. They got them at like
It's such a
Family
rip-off.
Dollar. or
I think it's like
something.
Mark's or Aldi's or something.
And them boy.
My wife found them. If I gave you a tag along and this thing next to each other, you couldn't tell the difference.
And then I put all my cookies in the freezer. So I put all my cookies in the freezer. I put them in there with the Thin Mints, and it's devastating, bro. You can't they go down so smooth. You're like, I'm only gonna eat 3 a day, and
Yeah,
then
right.
you eat the
3
whole
boxes
roll.
a day.
The whole
Yeah.
roll.
You know
be
what I
gone.
like? The Keebler fudge stripe cookies.
Yeah.
You ever have those?
Oh, yeah.
What you mean,
Those
ever
are
had
good.
it? I was sponsored by them at 5.
So,
That's
Bill,
what he was eating in the bathroom when he wasn't eating Doritos.
Yeah.
on the morning call, you said you wanted to talk specifically about the game.
Yeah, we
before
did a
Tom
little bit
came on.
earlier. My biggest point was what we referenced earlier was that I know Mike Zunino hit a home run yesterday, but to me, he's shot as a ball player. You hoped he'd be an upgraded catcher. Somehow he's not been. I mean, Austin Hedges stinks too. By the way, he's still playing every day for Pittsburgh pretty much. But he's no good. And Bo Naylor's time is now. I don't know why they're continuing to wait.
Well, at this point, now you might as well wait until the Super
know-
2's out
you
of the
know.
way. You've waited this long.
Yeah.
You know
And
why?
that's coming. I don't know the exact date, but it's got to be close.
This is
Yes.
the downside to Tito. It ain't even a downside. It's just like you just know what it is. So like if Tito see you like look like you trying to get out of a slump, it look like you battle. He loves battling. He's like, yeah, battle back, hit a couple home runs. Now all of a sudden that bought him 3 more weeks.
Well, I said when he threw the runner out at second, I turned around and said, that just got him 6 more weeks.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Brennan hit the bird yesterday, by the way?
Yes.
You know what? I was there and I didn't even realize it.
I didn't. I didn't even notice it, and I didn't
notice it
see
till-
much of the game yesterday. Like I said, because I was out, so I was listening to a lot of it on the radio. But when I went back and looked at the highlight of it, I couldn't see
I couldn't
it that
see
well.
it until someone tweeted out this angle this
Did
morning.
he implode it?
It's gonna be small for you guys, but
Yeah.
watch it. It highlights the bird. Steve, you can take it. And Anthony can play it.
Yeah, we can't.
can't
see
see
I
that.
can't see that.
They'll highlight it. Hold on. They do a little highlight. See that black dot? Boom,
I
black
didn't
dot
see
no
a black
longer
dot.
there.
Oh, I saw that little.
Why
piece
has
of
it got the shady stuff on the side there? What is with that?
It's
Oh yeah,
it's I mean it's a cell phone recording and it's not the full
yeah,
screen.
Yeah.
But it did hit a bird.
Yeah, I see that little black dot. That black dot is no longer.
And did you see his response though?
I did.
Will Brennan, give me Will Brennan's tweet, Ant. Will Brennan
He
then
looks
tweeted
sad.
at PETA and apologized. Earl called him a murderer last night. I woke up to all these texts saying your
Earl.
favorite player is a murderer, and it turns out he just killed a bird unintentionally. Anthony, where's this tag board?
What are the odds of that, man?
Anthony forgot to load it into tag board, so give us a second.
Yep.
I'm going to
Come on,
call it out. I
Anthony.
sent it to him this morning. I said, Anthony, make sure we got his response in.
Anthony, pull it together.
Hey.
He forgot 4 times to bring the heads.
The pause.
These heads.
Yeah,
These
pause.
heads.
I'm uncomfortable
These
with
heads.
men bringing me heads and stuff. I don't know how I feel about that.
And, then he pulled a Randy Johnson. What did Will Brennan say?
Well, he tagged PETA.
Yeah, will you read it? I'm going to make
Yeah.
sure Tom Hamilton is all set up because I just see him
There
right
it
in the
is.
queue. But
There
he
he
tagged
is.
PETA. I'm
We got
truly
it.
sorry. An unfortunate sacrifice.
And I'm thinking, buddy, don't poke the PETA bear.
Hey, look.
Like, I think it's funny, whatever, but
So-
PETA will be pouring blood on you.
So, like, this
was
is
he trying to be funny?
I assume he
Or
was
was he
trying to
being
be funny.
serious?
behind the scenes.
No, he's trying to be funny.
Behind
That's
the
not
scenes, behind the scenes, I've been told there are 5, and I'm not even gonna name the groups. I'm not even gonna say nothing. There are 5 groups that you don't mention and you don't act like they even exist.
I know one of them.
Yeah, I know.
Anthony Lima felt their
Yeah,
wrath.
I
The
have-
bicycle people.
I didn't say
Don't
nothing.
mess with bicycle people.
Listen, I love all people. I love all.
You don't remember that when
yeah.
Lima made a joke about
No.
bike lanes and hitting a biker and people went bananas?
We don't condone that. We love bicyclists. We like helmets and everything. And we like birds. I'm
All
not
right.
messing around with nothing.
We got Tom
Love
Hamilton
y'all.
coming
We
on.
do, and
Go
we're
ahead.
going to the guest hotline, and the guest hotline today is brought to us by Lorain County Community College. Your class is your future. Register now for summer and fall classes. You can learn more at lorainccc.edu. You just heard my voice, which does not even come anywhere close in comparison to the
you have a
legendary
terrible voice.
Tom Hamilton's. I feel bad introducing Tom with such a terrible voice for an ad read, but there is the legendary Tom Hamilton joining us now on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. What's up, Tom?
Hi, guys. How are you?
Tom,
Good, Tom.
do you have any people that send you demo tapes? Like, you're so good
Yes.
at your job. Do people send you demos and say, do I have a chance?
Yeah, especially you get young guys that are maybe, doing college games or minor league games or whatnot. So, you're always happy to listen to those and offer any advice if you can, or if they want advice or are looking for, any tips. I mean, to me, that's always the least you can do is, try to help the next generation coming up, because we're all there at one time.
What do you do if they're terrible?
He hired someone like you to call him back and say that was horrible. That was trash, Jason Lloyd.
Have you
Trying to
tried
be
accounting?
politically correct.
Yeah, that could be awkward. Hey, Tom, last night, one of the many things I love about your broadcast style, I'm listening to the end of the game with you. I was driving home, listening to the game, and I feel like way too many hometown announcers, if there's a bad ball strike call in favor of their team, never admit that. Yeah. And in the bottom of the 8th, I can't remember now if it was Rosario or Ramirez, that Santos threw a pitch and he thought it was strike 3, and you said, yeah, they missed the call. I feel like so many hometown announcers won't do that, and I really appreciate your honesty, because I think that's what announcers should do, and I love that you do that.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. But yeah, I'm with you, and I think I've gotten better as I've gotten older. As far as too many times early in my career, I think I was way too critical of umpires, and these guys are the best at what they do. They're trying to do the right job, and a lot of times we may think it was the wrong call. We find out that it was the right call. Mm-hmm. But I mean, they're going to miss calls. I mean, They're human. And sometimes your club's the beneficiary of that, and sometimes you're on the other end of that spectrum. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's been said time and again, there might be a rare exception, but very seldom does it come down to one call. Now, I could make an exception about Joe Brinkman in Game 6 of the '95 World Series. Yes. When the plate went from 17 to 22 inches, and it was that way from inning number 1. Cleveland was in trouble with Tom Glavine on the mound for Atlanta. But at the end of the day, it's usually the guys wearing the uniforms that are going to decide whether you win or lose, not the ref or not the umpire.
So I'm curious, with the new rules this year, I know as a fan, I enjoy the speed of the game. As a broadcaster who's been calling games for a long time, how much of an adjustment has it been for you because the pace is quicker? How tough has that been, if at all?
It's a good question. From a radio standpoint, and having done college basketball on TV for 25 years, I felt like I had a feel for how it was to do television too. Television, you can talk over certain plays or pitches or whatnot because the camera is providing the play-by-play. So if your partner has something to say, you don't need to interrupt them and say, here's the pitch.
Right.
Or, here's the shot, or whatever the case might be. A lot different in radio. And so it's been a lot tougher, in my opinion, for Rosie and I to have as much back and forth. If Logan Allen's on the mound, you're lucky to say, here's the windup and the pitch. He's almost winding up and delivering when he's gotten the throwback from the catcher. So I definitely feel on radio it has been an impact. Now, I don't know how Matt and Archie feel about it on TV, but again, you can talk over what's going on because you can see what's going on. On radio, if you're talking over and missing plays or pitches or whatnot, that's a disservice to your listeners. And so it's been quicker. I don't think we've lost anything. I know some people feel like the game is too fast. I don't get that. All we've done is cut out dead time.
That's right.
Mean, I'm trying to remember, guys, was last night 2:06 or we had a 2:06 game Sunday night in New York. I think that's what it was. Last night, whatever it was, 2:15 or whatever. That's the way it should be if there isn't much scoring. There weren't many hard hit balls.
No.
And so why should that be a 3-hour game? The thing, I don't know that it's been talked about a lot, guys, and I may be dead wrong. My feeling is the pitch clock has impacted the last 3 innings of the game more as far as who's pitching them. Those guys that were pitching in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and still are guys that were trying to maximize velocity. And so they took as much time as they could between pitches so they could throw 97 or 98 or whatnot. How many times did we say, man, the game was flying along until the bullpen got involved? And they were the guys that were the slowest workers, especially your closer. I think the element we've added to our game this year, and I like it, I don't think the last part of the game is as predictable as it was anymore. You're not seeing as many, it's the 9th inning, this game's over, you might as well turn the radio off, turn the TV off, go to bed. It's not the case. Emmanuel Clase leads baseball with 16 saves, yet he's had 5 blown saves.
Right.
I don't want there to be no drama at the end of the game. There's nothing better than comebacks in the last innings. Look, we were on the wrong end of it in New York where you had the lead in every one of those ball games or had a chance to win every one of those games until the Mets won them in the 8th inning or later. That's the element of the game I thought we were losing. I thought the end of games had become so predictable because the bullpens were so dominant before the pitch clock. I don't think that's the case this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Tom, I was there last night. I was trying to write a column on Zunino and Josh Bell and how they've been a disappointment in the free agents just haven't lived up to the paychecks that they're cashing. And I was 3/4 of the way through the column, and I'm typing, and Mike Zunino goes, boom! It hits a 2-run homer in the 7th or 8th. And I looked at Zach Meisel, and I closed the laptop with one finger, and I said, well, this one's going to have to wait a couple of days. But, obviously, Zunino has struggled quite a bit this year, both behind the plate and at the plate. How long do you think the leash is, and how long until is Bo Naylor an option at this point? Even Chris Antonetti yesterday said before the game it's been a disappointment. It hasn't gone the way that they anticipated. And Chris is never really critical of anyone.
No.
So for him to even say that, I thought, okay, well, maybe the clock really is ticking now.
I think at some point it is, Jason, but I think the clock is always ticking on everybody in the game. I don't think it matters. The one thing, I know it's trite, but you've heard it time and again with baseball, and I'm sure you could say it about other sports too. Look, the train is always moving. You either get on the train or the train passes you by. And so I don't care who the player is. At some point, teams run out of patience. Now, I think with Mike Zunino, he only played 30-some ball games last year. That's a very serious surgery that he had because you're cutting into muscles, you're cutting into all that area, ligaments and whatnot, when you have that thoracic outlet syndrome surgery to improve your circulation. Now, maybe it is on his non-throwing arm, but anybody that throws a ball knows that front shoulder's your lead shoulder. That comes into play when you throw the baseball, or if you're throwing a football. I mean, a quarterback can't have a bad left shoulder and still be a good thrower if he's right-handed. So I think with Mike Zunino, they're trying to be as patient as they can, knowing he is still not back 100% and that it's still a work in progress. I think he's gotten better at blocking balls in the dirt. He threw a runner out last night, which is the first he's done in a while. Again, when these guys have the track record that they have, they're going to get more of a leash. You're going to be a little bit more patient with them. But Bo Naylor is going to make a case to be up here pretty soon. Yep. And so the good thing is that you might have somebody if you have a need in that position. And so I'm curious to see what last night does for Mike. If this maybe really gives him a jump start and gets him back to being the player that he's been throughout his career. But, again, I think we know who the catcher of the future is here in Cleveland.
Hammy, you talked about the train moving, and, when you look at the right field position, last year it looked like the Guardians had found, an Oscar Gonzalez, their long-term answer out there. But this year, Will Brennan has been playing well. He's been mixing into that rotation. Do you think, how do you think this ends? Who is the real long-term answer, and how long do you think the platoon will still go on with, two young players?
That's a great question. Again, with young players, you have to be patient. And I think what we found here when both Oscar and Will were here, there's just not enough at-bats. I think for young players more so, obviously, than a veteran who's maybe near the end of the line. They've never sat their entire life. I mean, let's face it. If you're Will Brennan or you're Oscar Gonzalez, you've been the best player on the team since you were able to put on a pair of pants and play T-ball or Little League or wherever you may have started. You've never sat. You've never sat in the minor leagues because you're a prospect that needs to play. You get up to the major leagues, the toughest level there is, and now they're telling you, you might only play once or twice this week. That it was an adjustment that Oscar Gonzalez couldn't make. He needed to go to Columbus and get the at-bats that he's getting now to get back up here and be maybe that power threat that we thought he was going to be. The problem right now for Oscar is it's not happening in Columbus either. And so to me, that's an even bigger concern. For Will Brennan, it hasn't been a great start, but he's had better at-bats. And again, I know it's a result-based business, but sometimes you can tell when the game is starting to beat him up. And that's what they felt like with Oscar Gonzalez, that he was just kind of overwhelmed and beaten before he got to the plate. Will Brennan has had much better at-bats, even though he doesn't have great numbers, that Will Brennan is going to get more time out there. But as you're seeing, Gabriel Arias is a guy, they feel like they've got to have him in the lineup. I think Gabby, I know it's Gabriel, but he is called Gabby. He's the point that I think you're also making, in that he's got to play. I think his time is right now to be playing every day or close to it. He's the best shortstop on the club, even though you've got a good one in Amed Rosario. So I think you're going to see Arias get a lot more at-bats at various positions on the diamond. But Tito talked about Arias on the road trip, and he was like, this is a guy we cannot get impatient with, because that light is going to come on, and when it does, he's got a chance to be special.
Tom, where the lineup and the bullpen have struggled, the rotation seems to be really settling in right now. Bybee's been very good. Logan Allen's been very good. We know Bieber hasn't been at his best this year, but he's coming off a good start against the Mets. We know he's not going anywhere at the moment. We know Quantrill's in the rotation. That's 4 certain spots, okay? And we got McKenzie and Savali both getting close to coming back, and Gavin Williams is just dominating in the minors. It's a good problem to have. What do you think by the time assuming guys are healthy, and it probably won't be because somebody else will get hurt or whatever, but assuming all these guys stay healthy at this point, what's your best guess as to what this rotation looks like second half of the season?
Ooh.
It's tough.
I didn't prep enough for this show. These are good questions, guys. No, I think I'm going to start with Gavin Williams, Bull.
Yeah.
First off, the reason we haven't seen Gavin Williams is twofold. One, they don't want to rush him. He's only made 4 AAA starts, I believe it is. To your point, he has dominated every level he's been at in the farm system. Completely overmatched hitters.
Yeah.
They still want him to get better at all of his secondary pitches because right now in the minor leagues, he can beat them with 2 pitches. Sometimes you have to come to the major leagues and get beat up because you're only throwing 2 pitches to get that point that, hey, okay, you got to go back and work on your curveball and changeup as well. Yeah. But that's one thing. He needs more time. He's not on the 40-man. So when you move him to the 40-man, you've got to be moving him to stay, not just moving him to come up here for 1 or 2 starts.
Right.
The other thing that I think is also holding Gavin Williams back right now, they have to find out about the 2 guys you mentioned that should be back right at the end of this month or the 1st of June, Tristan McKenzie and Aaron Savali. They're going to get the first opportunity. So you're going to have Shane Bieber, you're going to have Logan Allen, you're going to have Tanner Bybee in that rotation, and then you're going to get Aaron Savali and Tristan McKenzie here within the next 10 days to 2 weeks. That is then when decisions are going to be made because guys are going to have to, again, perform. We just got talking about how long are you patient with certain guys. This is now a great situation to have where you guys like Bo Naylor and Gavin Williams, they're knocking on the door and they're not going away. And so what I think is, and then last night, Hunter Gaddis came out of nowhere. We've never seen Hunter Gaddis as good as he was last night, but that also shows you the potential that he has because he did it against a ball club that was red hot coming into last night's ballgame. Look, guys, you cannot have enough starting pitching. We all know that. I think as disappointing as the start has been, in one sense, it's been remarkable that you're talking about the starters actually being pretty good. You're also talking about it with 3 rookies in the rotation right now because Zach Plesac's not here, and we know about Savali and McKenzie. Remember, guys, a couple of years ago when you lost Bieber, Savali, and Plesac, season was over. You were never able to recover from that. The fact that this club is able to almost dog paddle and stay afloat here without going under until you get all your starters back is saying something about the future. So I think the second half of this year obviously gets very interesting. The Shane Bieber topic is going to be there all season long. You can't avoid it. Shane's heard it. From what I understand now, obviously I couldn't hear the ESPN telecast on Sunday night since we're also doing the game. But the word was, I heard from people that when they did talk about Cleveland, their talk was about Shane Bieber and would he be traded and who might he be traded to? Right. You're going to continue to hear that because Shane Bieber has, in essence, a year and a half left before he's a free agent at the end of 2024. And so I think that comes into the equation as well.
Tom, is there any concern over Clase? The peripheral numbers, the saves, obviously are there, but you mentioned the blown saves. The velocity hasn't been there at times this year. Is there any concern with him at all, or is it he's going to be fine?
And Tom, you mentioned, in fact, it reminded me when Jason was saying this because on the broadcast last night, you made the point of saying how his strikeouts are way down this year.
Mm-hmm. That has been one concern. The one thing, guys, which to me is astounding, for a guy that can throw 100 miles an hour and a slider, he's never been a big strikeout guy. No. However, he was a strikeout an inning last year. Now, a lot of guys, like when Karinchak was going good last year, he averaged 2 strikeouts an inning. Right. Clase's never been that guy. I don't know why guys put the bat on the ball with him with the kind of stuff he has, but they worked with his arm swing a little bit. That was a little bit shorter than it had been. That's why they felt like he had lost some velocity, yet he's still throwing 98 miles an hour and then throwing sliders last night at 93 miles an hour. The biggest thing Tito said, we talked about it in his office last night. Class A, he's been off just this much. And again, it shows you how good these guys are in the major leagues, that he's off just this much, and that makes him more hittable than he was a year ago. It's all about location with him. He got ahead the other night, 0-2, and he hung a slider. And, the ball was hit out of the ballpark. And so when he's made a mistake, it's gotten hit. He hasn't been quite as sharp as a year ago. But no, I know some people are worried that his velo's down maybe 2 miles an hour. They feel that's due to the arm swing and some of the mechanics of his delivery. I thought last night he looked as good as we've seen him. I think Tito commented after the ballgame. I haven't talked to Tito yet today, but he said he threw that slider like he was angry. And, Emmanuel Clase A isn't used to having blown saves. So, no, I think the guy, the other thing, too, is, as Tito mentioned, we have had 23 one-run games. Mm-hmm. Every night, you're one mistake away from getting beat because you haven't been able to open up games. I mean, we scored 3 runs last night, and that felt like a big lead going into the late innings. And, that's part of the problem. You just when is the last time this ball club, I thought we were going to have it Friday night, but when's the last time they went into a game late up 6-1, 7-1, and it was kind of like automatic? Just hasn't happened.
I can't remember.
No.
Along that line of train of thought, when you look at it as far as the power numbers are concerned, do you think, does Tito think that they'll eventually, get themselves to be middle of the road, or are they planning for this being the long haul? Like, hey, this is what we are. We're going to just find different ways to win some ball games.
Well, they have to get better. If you can't win this way, you can't win never hitting home runs. Again, it's a 1-0 game last night going into the late innings. We don't know how that turns out. It sure seemed different with a 2-run home run, didn't it? I mean, it's just amazing what a 2 or 3-run home run does late in the game, something we just kind of haven't gotten used to because it hasn't been happening around here. If they don't hit for more power, it's going to be a struggle all year offensively. And I think, Ahmed Rosario is not going to be a power hitter, but he's starting to hit. The guy that has to come around is Andres Jimenez. Mm-hmm. I mean, this guy doesn't have to hit 25 home runs, but, he's just really tried to do too much this year. We have really missed his bat that we had a year ago. Josh Bell, obviously has not hit for a lot of power. He's walking a lot. He's getting some big hits, but, we're not seeing maybe 25 or 30 home runs from that position. I don't know where the power is going to come from. Again, I hate to always fall back on last year, but in some ways last year was kind of magical. Every time you brought somebody up, they got hot for a week or so. It was unbelievable to have 17 guys make their major league debut, and it seemed like every one of them played well for a week or two as soon as they got up here. You missed that power of Oscar Gonzalez that we talked about, that threat of winning a game or blowing a game open with one swing of the bat. We just don't have that right now. Josh, if you're going to count on Josh Naylor to hit 40 home runs, you're going to be disappointed. And if he tries to hit 40 home runs, he's going to have a bad year. Right now, I don't see a guy on this ball club outside of Jose Ramirez that's a 30 home run guy. So, hopefully we get more power. I think we have to get more power from whom you have here. It doesn't have to be guys hitting 30 or 40 home runs, but I think what you've got to see are, more guys hitting 15 to 20 home runs, and so you have more of a threat up and down the lineup. Look, guys, the power is either here or you don't have it. This is what you have offensively, unless maybe an Oscar Gonzalez gets hot or whatnot, or if you make a trade and you try to get a hitter in that trade, which means you're going to be giving up pitching to get that kind of a bat. And I don't know how many people are going to trade you that bat. What you need to do is find a matchup. If you feel like you have a surplus to starting pitching, you need to find another team that has a surplus of power bats and is in need of pitching. Otherwise, it's the guys that are here. They either get it done or they don't.
Yeah, I think they need to get a power-hitting right fielder and, frankly, a platoon partner for Naylor, because I just don't want him playing against lefties that can, hit some home runs against lefties. We'll see. Last thing, Tom, obviously, not just the American League Central, both Central divisions are absolutely atrocious. But specifically on the American League Central, is this as bad as you've seen it? Because, it feels like the Guardians have lost every night for the last month, and yet they're 3 games out of first. I don't think anybody's that good in this division.
I'm really surprised. I might be beating the drum for no reason. I still think Chicago, on paper, is a really good ball club.
Yeah.
I think in Pedro Grifol, they've got a guy that can be a really good manager. And, they've been playing better as of late. They still are a little banged up. They just have a hard time staying healthy. But in Luis Robert, I think you have the next superstar in our game that maybe not enough people realize how special he is. In Tim Anderson at the top of their order, you've got a guy that's a perennial batting champ contender, and he's already won a batting title, and he's one of the most electric players in the American League from an offensive standpoint. Their starting pitching is really good. They have so many power arms in their bullpen. I don't know why. They got off to such a horrific start. They were 14-28. That's a chasm to try to dig yourself out of. But don't discount the White Sox. Yeah. They still have way too much talent for this to continue. Obviously, it's Minnesota, the other team that you mentioned, along with Cleveland, because I know Detroit's been a surprise. We'll see. In Kansas City is just having a really tough start. So I thought the division was going to be better. And quite honestly, we're lucky it's not.
Yeah. No doubt. Tom, you're the best. We appreciate it as always. Thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always fun.
Appreciate it.
Tom Hamilton.
Thank you.
He's the best. I love listening to him on the radio.
Hey, man,
it's such a pleasure.
And he's as good of a guy as he is an announcer. Phenomenal guy.
He can do 35, 40 minutes easy. He didn't even seem like it was no.
Yeah,
it's come out smooth.
He's so good to listen to on the radio. I love being in the car and throwing it on. It's just anyway, go ahead, Mikey.
We got one more Calling Companies Championship read, so if you want to see your favorite golfers at the famous Firestone Country Club, you can do so July 12th through the 16th. There are family-friendly events all week long for everybody, including a new fan zone experience, free attendance for kids, and concerts every night. There is something for everyone. That's a Calling guarantee. You can learn more at callinggolf.com. We got about 20 minutes to wrap up here.
Yeah.
And, Bull, you were asleep. You already mentioned it. Jason, myself, Earl, Anthony was watching something else, but we stayed up to watch the Game 4 Lakers Nuggets.
Yeah, I've been locked into these series, guys, but I was like, it's 3-0. I'm tired. I'm not staying up for it.
They're both over.
So, but I know it was a close game, and, LeBron had a chance at the end. But I'm curious from your take. Did you watch it too, G?
No.
Okay. So I'm curious from your take, Jason.
It's done.
LeBron had a magnificent first half. He looked like vintage LeBron for 24 minutes. And then he ran out of gas the second half. Is this the beginning? Was this series the beginning of the end finally for LeBron?
He said afterwards he's thinking about retiring. And, my buddy Dave McMenamin caught up with him after as he was leaving the arena, walked out with him, and LeBron said, yeah. Now, I don't think he's retiring.
Okay.
I would be shocked if.
I'm calling massive BS.
Is it only because of Bronny that he's not going to retire, or is it more to it than that?
I think he also wants the retirement tour. He wants.
He's all about that.
He wants the victory lap.
Yeah.
And he's earned it. Frankly, he's earned it. And some guys it's important to, and some guys it's not. I think he wants it. And Bronny's still 2 years away. He's got to play 2 more years.
That's true.
To hang on for Bronny. So I was a little bit surprised. I was just getting ready to go to bed last night, and I flipped on Twitter and saw what he said, because I didn't watch his post game.
Right.
And thought, wow, I've never heard him talk that way. Now, also, it's important to know he's very emotional after these. And, he has said before, when he loses in the finals, I'd rather not even get there than get there and lose. It's obviously he poured everything he had into this. I absolutely think he thought they could win it all, and that's why he came back from the foot injury when he did late in the season, probably a little bit sooner than he should have. And it just became evident throughout this whole playoffs, this is not the LeBron that I remember, that I covered. That's not the same guy. Yeah. But he's 38, and he's played the equivalent of like 3 more seasons just in postseason games. He's old. Dylan Brooks was right. He is old. He's got a lot of mileage on those tires. And for him to still put up what he put up last night, 40 points. What is he, 1 assist shy, I think, of a triple-double?
1 assist shy of a triple-double. 40,
Stunning.
10, and 9.
At 38 years old. I think he played the whole game. I think he played all 48 minutes.
I think he sat for 4 seconds at the end of the first half.
When you look at it,
Yeah.
So you got to look at his body type. Like, so LeBron is always going to be a person, like Jason said. Like the further you get along, right, and you make it to the Western Conference Finals, you start to envision yourself in the finals. You start to visualize it. And great players need to visualize them having success. So when you do lose, and you lose in the fashion they lose to, it's devastating because you're like, we just lost to the Nuggets, and they beat us bad. So we wasn't close. So you know what you got to do to even get to that level. And he's like, that's daunting in his mind. For me, the most impressive thing is the fact that he got 40 points and he almost got a triple-double. But when you go back to his body type, I think LeBron, just being the genius type dude he is, he's going to realize, okay, I got to go back in the lab and I got to recreate myself. If I could get the same thing from Anthony Davis, remind you, there's a lot of pieces and parts that are new for this team.
Yeah. And the others played like crap.
This was not a good roster.
Yeah.
And now they fixed themselves at the trade
It was
deadline.
better. I mean, they beat Golden State.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but this was, I mean, if you compare this roster to like the teams he had here in Cleveland, 15, 16, 17.
But Anthony Davis is a star, no? I mean, he didn't play
Anthony Davis
great.
is a head case.
But you know what's funny, though, is now, like, the Nuggets are so under the radar that we've spent this whole time talking about the Lakers.
Oh,
now, I get it.
And they're not, there's nothing appealing or sexy about the Nuggets. Nothing.
But they've been awesome in the playoffs.
They have been.
Yeah.
They have been.
And in a way,
And I'm a big Mike Malone fan, so
he's done he's done an excellent job.
He's a very good coach.
The story to me, I don't understand. The story of the playoffs is not the Denver Nuggets. They're second best, right? But the Miami Heat story.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to the Heat in a second. I just want to say this, because when I first say this, you can all think I'm crazy. But in a way, maybe you won't think I'm crazy. I don't know. In a way, Jokic is a lot like LeBron. In a lot of ways, he's nothing like LeBron.
Okay.
But in this one way,
I'm waiting for
is
this.
he can dominate a game without necessarily scoring 1,000,000 points.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right? And
At the
he's
end of the
very
game, he's
similar
got
to
38, 15, and 12, and you're like, where did that come from?
Right.
Yeah.
He
Like-
played objectively a terrible Game 4 and had a 24, 13, and 14 triple-double. And he was terrible to his
Game 4 or
standards.
Game 3?
Or game 2. He was terrible in Game 2. They still won.
I thought it was Game 3 that he played poorly until the
No,
fourth quarter.
Game 3 was the foul trouble. Game 2 he played and just didn't score.
Oh.
Missed all his shots. But he still had, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
a 20, 14,
Like,
and 12
he is
triple-double.
such a good passer, just like LeBron,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He gets all these rebounds. Like, he's always in the right place at the right time. He's a special player, but he looks weird in a way. And so we don't like, but he belongs in the conversation with certainly the greats now. And if they win this title, which I think they will, do you think they will?
Yeah.
Mike, you think they're winning, or you think the Heat are going to win?
If the Heat win, it's the greatest.
my God.
You got to go with the Nuggets. Like, the Nuggets have been.
By the way, if the Heat win a championship, is Eric Spoelstra the greatest coach ever?
He's not the greatest coach ever, but he's the greatest coach today.
Like
He's already
I thought that before
I mean, coaching.
the series.
I text Earl. I said, listen, coaching counts, bro. Like, I know we like to say that these dudes, Budenholzer and people getting fired, but this counts, bro. Like, this dude don't have nobody. This is what I'm saying. These Vincent guys.
Well, it's like you're carried away. They do have Jimmy Butler.
They do not have people. They got Vincent and Duncan Robin. Like, come on.
Yeah. They still have Jimmy Butler,
They
though.
got Jimmy Butler.
But
But
Bam
it's
Adebayo.
yes, they've turned a lot of undrafted guys into good players.
The Heat, the Spurs, and OKC are the 3 best-run teams in the league, and then there's everybody
How
else.
did OKC join that group?
Sam Presti. Sam's terrific. And those
Emerson.
Yeah.
Emerson.
Emerson College. Those 3 franchises, more than anybody else,
Yeah.
they know what they're looking for. They can identify talent, and they can mine the talent, and they can
Yeah.
get it to play the way that they want it to play.
Yeah.
Those
can't-
3 teams more than
We
anybody
can't
else.
find one reserve. Not one.
But Jimmy Butler has been magnificent in
Yes.
the playoffs.
Yes.
And what's his name? Grant Williams is
How many titles would LeBron have if he never left Miami? He'd have a hell of a lot more than 4.
Well, that's a fascinating question. But would they have had the same players? Because LeBron is, let's be fair, as much as we love LeBron, he ain't patient for developing
ran into
players.
That Golden State buzzsaw.
They did.
He still would have had to go past.
He still would have had to go through that.
Golden State,
Yes.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like, Miami's not been to the finals twice without him. Like,
right.
And he still had Bosh and Wade in the prime of their careers. He left them to come back here to a
Right,
team that
but,
wasn't as good as the team he left.
You'll never know what the team would look like now.
We'll never
you know.
And so, like, because I heard, I think it was.
But you're saying because he would have had the great coach and the great GM.
Yes.
As opposed to what, you know.
a fantastically run franchise, one of the best in the league.
Much better than the Cavs.
Well, the Kyrie, if you could say the same, if Kyrie doesn't leave, Kyrie would have probably had 4 rings.
But Dan won't. Mickey won't spend the way Dan will. Like, Mickey even has his limits.
I'd still rather have Mickey.
Well, Mickey stays out of the way.
Yeah, right.
A lot of times, and lets Pat Riley do his thing. It's just, I was just thinking about, because, like, I think it was somebody, I saw something on Twitter today about only 4 rings in 20 years.
I was gonna bring that up. I'm glad you did.
Well, and it's such a nuanced conversation, and there's so much more to it than that, because, like, the Maverick series is all on LeBron. Like, he should have won that, and that's his fault.
100%.
And that's a big stain on him.
Yes.
But the flip side of that is, nobody else has ever taken 3 franchises to a championship.
Right. That was the only finals he should have won that he lost.
Yes. That outright, you could blame him and say he had a poor series. That's on him. That Maverick series is on him. He should have won that.
And to be honest with you, if he wanted to, after 18, if LeBron still plays for the Cavs, they're still going to the finals. He could have went to the finals 12, 13 years in a row.
There's just a lot of mismanagement that went on that last year, and that's sort of the frustrating, unfortunate part that I just think a lot of Cavs fans they just sort of gloss over. Like, they still had a chance to win a championship last year.
And they wouldn't.
And everyone was so focused on starting over that they just sort of punted LeBron's last year.
They punted, and it was like, and then it was strange. They were like, oh, no, we're not going to give up this Colin Sexton, number 8. What?
Well, I mean, we're really going to go down
old
revisionist
news at
history
this
rabbit.
point,
But real quick on that, the mistake to me was trading Kyrie for a draft pick. There was no one at that trade deadline worthy of that pick necessarily.
Yeah.
But the fact that you traded Kyrie really for the draft pick is what I had the biggest problem with.
Is Bam Adebayo? Was he undrafted also?
No, he was a lottery pick.
He's lottery.
Oh, okay. He's so good,
He's
that
good.
guy.
He's really good.
He is fun to watch.
Now, he's added some stuff to his game because he didn't have all this.
Jokic's numbers on him are very good. Jokic has really done well against Adebayo, but that's going to be a fun matchup.
Bam's really undersized for a set. Like, he's only 6'9". So
he's so athletic.
He plays a lot bigger than 6'9".
Plays so much energy. Yeah, he looks like he's 7 feet tall. It feels like he's 7 feet.
Because he's just broad through the shoulders.
Hey, and now listen, the love affair. Hey, Boston. The love affair of Jason Tatum and Brown.
They were dogs in games.
I don't know what's going. I truly don't know what's going on there, but it's not good.
No. Is this gonna be a sweep or a gentleman's sweep?
Oh no, it's
That's
a sweep. They up out of here.
It's a sweep.
Peace.
And then there's gonna be 9 days until the finals.
I think they win tonight. Just
Do you really?
Yeah, and it goes against everything I believe in the NBA with Miami needing or wanting to
feels
rest.
like Boston's quit.
Put it in Boston quit last game, and I didn't think they'd quit last game, but I do think after seeing Jason Tatum in this fourth quarter of Game 6 and Game 7, just give you one of those F-it performances.
Man.
And Jaylen Brown has that in him too.
But he's been awful in the fourth quarter in this series.
They lost this series in Game 2 when he was pump faking, traveling every other. I'm like,
I know. And
what
they
are
lost
you
Game
doing?
5 of the last series when he was terrible too. But
I've said since
I'm not right
February I thought Boston was going to win a championship.
Yeah.
So I'm really surprised.
By the way, oh my God.
And now they may have to blow the whole thing up. I'm just stalling for you so you can remember.
No, I'm sure. I can't believe I can't think of his name. I'm losing my mind. What's his name? Who covers basketball for ESPN? Your buddy.
Windhurst.
Windhurst. I just couldn't think of his name. I forgot his name for a second.
He's very forgettable.
This has nothing to do with.
Kidding, Brian.
No, he's awesome. As you know, but he was talking about Kyrie, and I just had to bring this up for a second.
Yeah.
Because he's like, Kyrie showed up at the Laker game, which I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
Because Kyrie wants some competition for this max contract. Jason, I don't understand this. Kyrie is the biggest cancer in the entire NBA. And he's always hurt. Why on earth Would I know he's talented, but it's irrelevant. He's won nothing without LeBron. He's done nothing without LeBron. Why on earth would any team give him a max contract?
Because he's exactly what LA needs.
Yep.
And
you know it's not going to work.
But it'll work for a year or two. And it's all they care about. They've got to. If
you really think they're going to win a title if Kyrie goes there,
LeBron is already talking retirement. They have a very finite window left.
Yeah.
In order to win, and LeBron knows how to handle Kyrie. And all you need is a year out of him, 2 years out of him max. And yes, it's going to go off the rails. It's going to end badly. It's going to end with the building on fire.
I feel
but
like
if you can get a title out of it next year,
I don't think they're going to get a title.
I don't know.
Well,
they got this far.
AD's not the same player. LeBron's showing sign of age. Kyrie never stays healthy, ever.
So what's your alternative?
He's a freaking bum.
Well,
Kyrie's a bum.
The Lakers have to do something.
What's your alternative?
I don't know.
So
but it's not Kyrie. Kyrie, you can't win with Kyrie.
Well, they can.
They
He
can.
had the biggest shot in franchise history.
Hey.
Once
Okay.
and he played great that year.
Once out of 3 times, because then they traded him.
But Jace, everywhere
One
he's
out of
gone,
3.
everywhere he goes since then, he makes things worse.
Yes, eventually.
Are you
but
saying
all
'cause
you
he-
need is 1 or 2 years out of him.
Are you saying because he only won one, you can't win with him? Like, is that?
I just feel like at this point there's more negative than positive when it comes to Kyrie.
Sometimes in life you got to go down a negative road.
I would never. I wouldn't sign him
to
for the
get to the
I would-
positive.
It's
I
different.
wouldn't sign him for the league minimum.
These guys are different, but it's
Yeah.
the same. JR was a head case in trouble everywhere he went, and he came to Cleveland, and LeBron handled it. And Kyrie, I think he's a head case in a different way, and he's even worse because
Yeah.
he's just.
But he's worse, and he's a more important piece. You're banking on him for more and paying him more.
JR became a very important piece of the Cavs. But
That's true.
But Kyrie, LeBron knows now, and I think Kyrie now appreciates LeBron more
Yes, he
than
does.
he did a few
You know
years
that's
ago.
going to change. 3 weeks in, he'll be complaining that LeBron's.
I don't
buy it.
You can get a year out of it, maybe 2, and that's all they're looking for. They're just looking for 1 or 2 years. Really 1. LeBron's
That's
up
it.
in a year.
I would take any point guard in the league over Kyrie.
That's not gonna work.
I hate him.
Well, here's
Don't
what you
hate
got.
him, but
Here's
he's
what
an
you
awful
here's
person.
what you got to realize. See, in our nice little small Midwest towns of Cleveland, we can afford to punt on things. Oh, we don't like his attitude. We don't want it. Oh, he's going to be more of a problem than it's worth. When you in certain cities, when you coach and you play for the Lakers, their job is to go for championships each and every year.
Yeah, but my
don't
point
care.
is, I don't think Kyrie's going to help you win a championship.
He's going to help you more than what.
Why? What is he did? Did he help Brooklyn? Did he help Boston? Did he help Dallas? Went down the tubes when
That's
they got
Dallas.
him.
It's not the Lakers. And then he wasn't playing with
Boston's
LeBron.
a big market.
He wasn't
New
put-
York's a big market. Where'd it go? He did nothing, and he sucked.
was not playing with LeBron, was he?
I agree with 90% of what you're saying.
I do too.
But I'm telling you, LeBron is the
He's
exception.
different.
But LeBron, I think at this point, LeBron is not the same player.
And here's the thing: is LeBron. He's not a 1 like at the level that he was.
Right.
You need LeBron in April, May, and June, and he just showed you the wear and tear
LeBron-
that comes with that.
Honestly, LeBron should just sit the whole season. And I'm serious. He should sit the whole season and then play the final month of the regular season.
Well, I've actually been thinking about this last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
The Heat going to the finals is the worst thing for the NBA in terms of load management and all this stuff. They're proving to you that it works. So if you want to fix this and you want stars to play all year long, you have to cut the playoffs to 4 teams. Cut it in half.
Right,
Only
which
4
they'll
teams,
never do.
Which they'll never do.
but that would make the NBA be so much better.
But that's how you get the stars to play
That's
every
right.
night. Because right now, with
The regular
half
season's meaningless.
with half the league making the playoffs, and now the 8 seed going to the finals, they're just proving to you that it works.
If they did get Kyrie, I would play Kyrie for like 50 games. I'd play AD for like 40, 50 games, and I'd play LeBron for like 20 games. They'd still make the playoffs, and then they'd be relatively healthy going in. But what are the odds that LeBron, Kyrie, and AD will all stay healthy for a playoff run?
You don't need them to stay healthy all year. You just need them healthy
No,
on
but
April
for the
16th.
playoffs, what's the odds of them staying
Well,
healthy?
they did
for 2
this
months?
year.
Listen,
They did it during the bubble, and they did this year.
No, but with Kyrie.
If it's the world of Transformers and Unicron come up and pull up and about to destroy the whole planet, Optimus Prime says, I can go get Hot Rod or Megatron. Give me Megatron, and I can use Megatron for at least 4 to 5 battles, and I can at least have a chance. But you can't come out there with Bumblebee. You want Bumblebee?
I'm taking Bumblebee.
Yeah.
At least Bumblebee's got heart.
Give me Megatron, Galvatron, and Soundwave.
Kyrie is the biggest disappointment in the history of the NBA. Because
Anthony,
he should have been a Hall of Famer.
They didn't get that. That was cold.
And,
that
and
scheme
is
was
Is
cold.
Kyrie going to be a Hall of Famer?
Yes. What are you
Come
talking about?
on.
I don't know.
What you mean you don't?
I gotta look at the numbers.
What you
I haven't looked at his numbers.
What a
I gotta look
joke.
at the numbers.
Hey,
and see.
hey, McNuggets, they be emotional. They be emotional.
Kyrie's a bum.
Look
He
at
makes
y'all.
teams worse.
Kyrie is a definite. Christian Laettner's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but that was for when
Christian
he did in
Laettner was
college
the greatest,
and Team
one
USA.
of the greatest college players ever.
Is Stephon Marbury in the Hall of Fame?
No.
Well,
if Christian Laettner
I bet you
is in the,
Stephon's got probably better numbers than Kyrie.
No.
Although I don't know that off the top of my head. He may not.
no.
Marbury played a long time.
All right, we'll see you in overtime on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. What do we got in overtime, Mike? What do we got in overtime?
Megatron.
Fun topic Steve Becker suggested.
Oh, this is crazy.
We'll see you in a minute.